All right then, I'm going on the trip with my mom. You'll stay home, okay? I was completely speechless. But this is the prize I won in the contest, you know. Besides, if the winner doesn't use the ticket, it becomes invalid. I tried to explain, but before I could finish, my husband, Mike, interrupted with something shocking. If you don't like it, we can get a divorce. Excuse me? I'm saying that if you can't go along with what I want, we'll get a divorce. In that moment, whatever affection I had for my husband vanished. My name is Sasha, a 30-year-old office worker. I attended an all-girls school from middle school through university and entered the workforce without ever having a proper conversation with a man. My job kept me so busy that I never had time to fall in love, and before I knew it, I was 25. Realizing I needed to change this, a friend arranged a blind date for me. That's how I met my first boyfriend, a freelancer who lied about being an office worker. Soon after we started dating, he became unemployed, and I realized he intended to depend entirely on me. I broke up with him as soon as I could. After that experience, I became even more distrustful of men and found it hard to believe in them. That's how I ended up reaching 30 without another relationship. My parents were more worried about my situation than I was. Both my father and mother had already been married for several years by the time they were my age, so they were growing increasingly impatient. While getting married in your 30s is common nowadays, back then, 25 was considered the latest acceptable age to tie the knot. Concerned about my lack of a boyfriend or partner, my father started bringing me several arranged marriage proposals, insisting that if I couldn't find someone on my own, he would help me. At first, I repeatedly turned down his offers, but over time, I began to feel guilty about rejecting the efforts my father made on my behalf. I could sense how much both of my parents, especially as their only daughter, wished for my happiness. That's when I decided to take a more positive approach and agreed to go on a blind date, partly to show my gratitude to my parents. It was during one of these blind dates that I met Mike, who would later become my husband. Mike, like me, was 30 years old. He had attended an all-boys school his entire life and, like me, had never had much experience with relationships. What stood out to me about Mike was his deep sense of responsibility toward his parents. He took great care of them, visiting their home regularly, planning trips for them, and even joining them on these vacations. He seemed to have a kind personality and a stable job at a reputable company. I carefully examined Mike's business card, making sure everything was legitimate. I was especially cautious this time, having learned from my previous relationship. Despite my caution and thorough checking, nothing seemed off about Mike. I convinced myself he was trustworthy, and we continued dating. Mike took the lead in our relationship, understanding my shyness, and always treated me with great care. As time went on, I found myself increasingly drawn to him. After 2 years of dating, Mike proposed, and we got married. When my parents heard the news, they were overwhelmed with joy, shedding tears of happiness. I felt fortunate not only to have met a good man, but also to have brought such happiness to my parents. After our wedding, we went on our honeymoon and began our life together as a married couple. Since we both worked, we shared the household chores. Cooking wasn't Mike's strong suit, so I handled that while he took care of the laundry and cleaning. We had a balanced relationship and supported each other, enjoying what I believed was a happy married life. However, everything changed just 1 year into our marriage. It all began when my father-in-law passed away after a battle with illness. After his father's death, Mike became increasingly attentive to his mother, Bianca, who was now alone. On his days off, he would visit Bianca at her house, and the two of them would sometimes go out together without me. Sometimes, Mike would stop by Bianca's house after work and have dinner with her, leaving me to eat alone. On occasion, he even went on trips with just her. I remember one morning seeing him leave the house with a travel bag, and I naively asked if he was heading out on a business trip. To my surprise, he casually replied, "No, I'm traveling with my mother to New York." I was shocked. First, I couldn't believe he planned a trip without informing me. Even more baffling was that he seemed content to keep it a secret unless I asked. I couldn't understand how he could care so much for his mother while completely disregarding his wife's feelings. It wasn't that he ignored me entirely, but this behavior felt like more than just being family-oriented. It was as if he was overly attached to his mother. Despite my growing concerns, Mike showed no intention of changing his attitude or lifestyle. In fact, I don't think Mike even realizes how wrong his behavior is. Despite my concerns, I decided to compromise and stick it out, accepting that this was just how he was. If we divorced after only 1 year of marriage, it would devastate my parents. Besides, I thought if we had a child, maybe Mike's attitude would change. Divorce isn't something to take lightly, so I spent my days trying to make the best of things. To distract myself, I decided to take up a hobby. I recently became hooked on entering contests and winning prizes. It was surprisingly fun. I started entering various contests, winning items like cosmetics and food, and writing reviews. Then, one day, I won something much bigger, a pair of airline tickets to Guam. I was so shocked that I reread the email 3 times, unable to believe I had actually won such a grand prize. I carefully checked the details to make sure it wasn't a scam. There were no suspicious links or requests for my credit card number. It was real. I had genuinely won a trip to Guam. But then, I faced a dilemma. Who should I take? My husband had just returned from a trip to New York with Bianca. Should I ask a friend or maybe my parents? Then it struck me. I decided to give the tickets to my parents so they could enjoy a well-deserved vacation. Excited, I went to their house and shared the news. It's been years since we've traveled abroad. Are you sure about this, Sasha? You won this, my parents said. It's okay. I want to spoil you both for once, I insisted. Seeing their happiness brought me so much joy. But then my dad noticed something. Sasha, this ticket is valid only for the person who won it. It's non-transferable and you can't gift it. What? So I can't give it to you both? I was disappointed. Well, it seems that's the case. But you won it, honey, so why don't you go with Mike? My parents suggested. Reluctantly, I decided to take the trip with my husband. But when I returned home that night, I found a woman's coat by the front door. The coat looked familiar. It was Bianca's. When I walked into the living room, there she was, sitting on the couch, watching TV. Oh, Sasha, you're home. What were you doing out so late? It's your day off, Bianca said casually. I stood there, taken aback. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were here, Bianca, I replied, trying to mask my surprise. Oh, what are you trying to say? Is it wrong for me to visit my son's house? Bianca snapped. No, it's not, I replied, though I couldn't help but feel that Bianca had been kinder to me when my father-in-law was still alive. Since his passing, her attitude had become colder and more critical. Bianca's eyes then landed on the bag I was carrying. What's this? What did you buy? She asked. Inside the bag was a guidebook for our trip to Guam, which I had picked up on my way home. Oh, it's nothing, I said, trying to downplay it. Just show it to me. Huh? Why? Just show it, she insisted, snatching the bag from me before I could react. Guam? Are you just trying to treat yourself? What are you doing with Mike's earnings? I was stunned. What was she talking about? I won a pair of travel tickets in a contest, so I thought I would go on the trip with my husband, I explained. Oh, really? A prize, huh? Bianca's demeanor suddenly shifted, and she seemed almost excited. I had a bad feeling about where this was heading. Just then, my husband walked into the living room, fresh from a bath. Oh, Sasha, you're back. What's going on? I heard my mother's excited voice from the bathroom. Mikey, listen. Sasha won a trip to Guam in a contest, Bianca announced gleefully. Wow, that's great, Mike said, sounding genuinely pleased. Yeah, I replied, so I thought we could go together. I even bought a guidebook. How many people can go on that trip? He asked. It's a pair of tickets, so just the 2 of us, I answered. Mike paused, then glanced at Bianca. Her eyes widened, almost pleadingly, like a dog waiting for a treat. Okay, well then, I'm going to go on the trip with my mom. You stay home, okay? Huh? I was completely speechless. I hadn't realized Mike was this much of a mama's boy. This is the prize I won, I tried to argue. So what? We're a couple. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is my mom's, Mike said with a twisted sense of logic. No way. Besides, you and Bianca just went on a trip a few weeks ago. That has nothing to do with this. That trip was domestic, and Mike paid for it. We haven't been on an overseas trip in years. Bianca interjected, already planning their vacation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Hey, I didn't even agree that you 2 would be the ones going on this trip. Besides, the ticket would be invalid if the winner isn't there, I tried to explain. But before I could finish, Mike cut me off with something outrageous. If you don't like it, then we'll get a divorce. Excuse me? I said, if you can't listen and obey what I say, then we'll get a divorce. I never thought he would say that. Any affection I had left for him vanished instantly. Fine, do whatever you want, I replied coldly. Then why didn't you just say so sooner? You're so selfish, Mike snapped back, looking triumphant alongside Bianca, as if they had won some sort of battle. They eagerly started planning their trip together, using the guidebook they had taken from me, while I began considering my post-divorce plans. Later, my husband told me to contact the airline to confirm the trip, so I did as he asked. But I had a different plan. I asked the operator, am I allowed to give these tickets to my husband or any other relatives if I can't go? The operator replied, sorry, but the tickets are non-transferable, even to family members or relatives. That makes sense, I said. In that case, I'd like to decline the airline tickets I won in the contest. After hanging up, I turned to my husband and said, the tickets are void. We're not going anywhere. I handed the tickets to my husband and said, here are the tickets. Please make sure to check the terms and conditions. He scoffed, dismissing my words. I don't need to read any terms and conditions, he said, leaving the tickets on the shelf without a second glance. It probably never even crossed his mind that those tickets might be invalid. Afterward, I confided in my parents. I asked for their help because I planned to move out of the house on the very day Mike and Bianca were supposed to leave for their trip. My father was stunned when he heard what had happened. I never imagined Mike was this kind of person, he said, clearly shaken. My father had been the one who suggested the arranged marriage with Mike, so he felt responsible. It's not your fault, Dad, I reassured him. He only started showing his true colors recently. Don't blame yourself. I tried to calm him down, not wanting him to carry any guilt. The day of the trip finally arrived. Mike was in high spirits, eagerly preparing to leave. I, too, was looking forward to seeing how he and Bianca would react at the airport. Well, I'm off then. Take care of the house while I'm gone, Mike said, grinning widely. Yeah, have fun, I replied with an equally big smile, which seemed to catch him off guard. He left, a little surprised by my cheerful send-off. As soon as he was gone, my parents arrived to help me move out. We loaded my belongings into their car and headed to the new apartment I had found. It was close to my office, and I had secured it as soon as I decided I'd had enough of my marriage. The apartment was quiet and comfortable, a perfect place to start over. A couple of hours later, my phone rang. It was Mike. Hello. Hey, what's going on? They're saying our airline tickets are invalid. Yes, that's right, I replied calmly. If the winner doesn't accompany the trip, the tickets are invalid. What? You never told me that. I did. I told you to check the terms and conditions. It's all written there. You've got to be kidding me. I didn't read that. Well, that's your fault for not reading it, I said, my voice steady. It's like someone getting sued and claiming they didn't know the law. But what am I supposed to do now? I already booked a hotel in Guam. Like I said, it's none of my business anymore. You and Bianca can sort it out. I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of finality. 10 minutes later, Mike called again. What now? I asked, already exasperated. Why can't I pay with your card? My card? What do you mean? I asked, confusion creeping in. The card you're using as a sub, he said, his voice tinged with panic. I quickly checked my drawers and realized that my secondary credit card was missing. You took my card without asking. I was only borrowing it for a little while, he stammered. But the airline staff said I can't use it. Are you serious? If you're not the owner of the card, you can't use it. But on the internet. Internet? What are you even talking about? I was growing more frustrated by the second. Mike suddenly went silent, then muttered, oh, well, no, before hanging up. I stared at the phone, disbelief washing over me. No way. I immediately checked my credit card statement and found a list of charges I had no recollection of making. Then it hit me. My husband had been buying a lot of clothes and other things recently. He must have used my card without my permission. Furious, I canceled the card and took a screenshot of the statement history, determined to confront him later. A few days after his 3-day, 2-night trip to Guam, my husband called. What's going on? He demanded. All your stuff is gone, and you left divorce papers on the table. What the hell are you thinking? I'm thinking exactly what you think, I replied calmly. I can't live with a mama's boy who prioritizes his mother over his wife. and a thief who uses my credit card without permission. What? If you won't sign the divorce papers, we'll end up in court, I added. Court? Are you crazy? If people at work find out, then I'll request the divorce through my lawyer, I said, cutting him off. So you'd better cooperate quietly. Realizing he had no way out, my husband reluctantly agreed to the divorce on the condition that there would be no division of property and that he would repay all the credit card charges he had made without my consent. But my plan for justice didn't end there. I didn't have to spread the word about what happened. The news traveled fast enough on its own. My ex-husband soon called me, panicked. This isn't what we agreed on, he shouted. Everyone at work knows what happened. They're all calling me a mama's boy and a thief. I can't even show my face at the office anymore. Oh, what a shame, I replied, feigning sympathy. But I didn't say a word. Did you forget how many people were involved in setting up our marriage? The connection that had arranged our marriage was through my father, a general manager at his company, and my ex-husband's boss, a department head. They were great friends, and our blind date was arranged because my ex-husband's boss thought highly of him. But when the boss found out how my ex-husband had treated me, he was furious. As a result, my ex-husband was removed from the fast track in his career and became a pariah at work. Bianca didn't escape unscathed either. Word of her behavior spread through the neighborhood, and now everyone avoids her. She's become a recluse, trapped by her own actions. As for me, I threw myself into my work and earned a promotion, along with a raise. To celebrate, I took my parents on a long-awaited trip to Italy, where we made wonderful memories together. Although this experience was tough, I've learned a lot from it. I'm ready to find a better man and start a new chapter in my life. It's hard to believe my ex-husband turned out to be not just a mama's boy but also a thief. There's nothing more anyone can do for him. I'm glad my family and I were able to bond and enjoy our trip to Italy. I'm confident that, with my family's support, I'll find someone truly deserving of my love. Thank you for reading until the end. Please subscribe to our channel, and we hope to see you in our next video.
The acrid smell of smoke still clings to my fingers as I hold what remains of my mother's copy of Pride and Prejudice. Nothing but charred edges and ash-stained pages that crumble at my touch. My hands are trembling, and I can barely breathe through the tightness in my chest. My name is Skylar, and until today, I thought I knew what it meant to lose something precious. When Mom died 2 years ago, I inherited her collection of vintage novels, leather-bound treasures that still carried the scent of her perfume. Now they're gone, destroyed in what my sister Reagan claims was just an accident. I was just trying to clear some space in the attic, she says, standing in the doorway with that familiar look of defensive indifference. The candle must have tipped over when I was moving boxes. A candle? I whirl around, my voice cracking. Who uses candles in an attic full of books? The power was out, Sky. What was I supposed to do? Wait, use your phone? Literally anything else? I'm shouting now, and I don't care who hears. These were Mom's books, Reagan, her entire collection. First editions, annotations, everything. My fiancé Gerald appears behind Reagan, probably drawn by the commotion. Everything okay up here? I smelled smoke. No, I cut him off. Everything is not okay. Reagan just burned Mom's entire library. Reagan's face flushes. It wasn't intentional. God, you always do this. Act like I'm some kind of monster who what? Who destroys the only things we had left of her? I thrust the ruined book toward her. Look at this. Look what you did. Skylar. Gerald steps between us, his voice calm but firm. Maybe we should take a break. Get some air. I don't need air. I snap, pushing past them both. I need my mother's books back, but that's not possible now, is it? I storm down to the kitchen, where my best friend Nicole is still setting up for what was supposed to be a casual Sunday brunch. Her eyes widen as I enter, probably noticing the soot on my clothes and the wild look I must have in my eyes. What happened? She asks, abandoning the mimosa she was mixing. Reagan happened. I grab a glass of water, my hands still shaking. She burned them, Nick. All of Mom's books, every single one. What? How? A candle. I laugh, but it comes out more like a sob. She brought a lit candle into the attic. Who does that? Nicole reaches for my hand, but I pull away. I can't handle sympathy right now. It feels too much like acceptance, and I refuse to accept this. Maybe some can be salvaged, she suggests gently. We could try to— You don't understand, I interrupt, my voice breaking. These weren't just books. They were everything. Mom's notes in the margins, her thoughts, her dreams, the little pressed flowers she kept between pages, the letter she wrote me on my 16th birthday, tucked into Jane Eyre. All of it. Just gone. Reagan appears in the doorway, her artistic hands twisted together nervously. Sky, please. I said I was sorry. I'll replace them. Replace them? The laugh that escapes me is harsh, bitter. These were first editions, Reagan. Mom collected them for 30 years. You can't just pop down to Barnes & Noble and replace them. I know that, but nothing. I meet her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I feel something dark and unfamiliar stirring in my chest. You know what? Just go. Go back to your apartment. Go back to your art. Go wherever you want. Just get out of my sight. Skylar, Gerald warns, but I ignore him. Reagan's face hardens, that familiar mask of indifference sliding back into place. Fine. Call me when you're done being dramatic. She turns and leaves, her footsteps echoing through the house we grew up in, the house that suddenly feels too empty and too full at the same time. Nicole touches my arm. She didn't mean to. Don't. I shake my head, staring at the ashes still clinging to my hands. Just don't. I look down at the ruined book again, at the barely legible inscription on the inside cover. To my darling girls, may you find yourselves in these pages as I have. Love, Mom. Something shifts inside me, something cold and determined. Reagan has always been careless with the things that matter to me, always skating by with half-hearted apologies and claims of innocence. But this time is different. This time, she's destroyed something irreplaceable, and as I stand there, surrounded by the people who love me, all I can think about is how to make her understand exactly what that feels like. You can't seriously be thinking about revenge, Nicole says, stirring her coffee as we sit in her kitchen the next morning. That's not you, Sky. I haven't slept. The smell of smoke seems permanently lodged in my nostrils, and every time I close my eyes, I see Mom's books turning to ash. Maybe it's time it was me. Have you tried calling Reagan? Maybe if you both just— I did call her. I cut in, my voice sharp. Want to know what she said? She told me I was being melodramatic and that they're just books. Nicole winces. Okay, that's not great. Not great? I slam my mug down, coffee sloshing over the rim. She destroyed the last connection I had to Mom, and she can't even acknowledge how much it matters. What about her art portfolio? Nicole asks carefully. You know, the one she's been working on for that gallery submission? My hand freezes halfway to wiping up the spilled coffee. What about it? Sky. Nicole's voice carries a warning. Don't. But I'm already thinking about it. Reagan's portfolio, her precious collection of original artwork that she's been cultivating for years, the one she needs for her upcoming gallery submission, the opportunity she won't shut up about. She keeps it in her studio apartment, I say, more to myself than Nicole, right next to her easel. Skylar, listen to yourself. Nicole reaches across the table, grabbing my hand. This isn't going to make you feel better. My phone buzzes. A text from Reagan. Hope you're done with your tantrum. BTW found some pages that might be salvageable. Want them? The casual tone, the dismissiveness, it makes my blood boil. I stand up abruptly, grabbing my keys. Where are you going? Nicole asks, though I can tell from her face she already knows. Reagan has spare keys to my house. I have spare keys to her apartment. Don't do this, Nicole pleads. At least talk to Gerald first. Gerald will try to talk me out of it, I say, already heading for the door. Just like you are. Because we love you, she calls after me. Because this isn't who you are. But maybe it is. Maybe this is exactly who I become when someone destroys something irreplaceable. I drive to Reagan's apartment building, my hands steady on the wheel despite the chaos in my mind. The spare key slides into her lock like destiny. Her apartment smells like paint and coffee, that artistic mess she's always been so proud of. The portfolio sits exactly where I knew it would be, leather-bound and pristine beside her workspace. I pick it up, feeling its weight. Years of work, countless hours of dedication, her ticket to the career she's always wanted. My phone rings. It's Gerald. Nicole called me, he says when I answer. Where are you? Running errands. Skylar. His voice softens. Baby, I know you're hurting, but whatever you're thinking of doing... She didn't just destroy books, Gerald. I interrupt, my voice trembling. She destroyed memories. Notes Mom wrote to us. The margin comments she made when she was going through chemo. The bookmark I made her in 3rd grade that she kept in Little Women for 20 years. I know, he says gently. But, no buts. She needs to understand what it feels like. I hang up before he can respond, then turn my phone off completely. The portfolio feels heavy in my hands as I carry it to Reagan's small balcony. There's a metal trash can out here where she burns her failed sketches. How fitting. I'm about to open the portfolio when I hear keys in the door. My heart stops. Hello? Reagan's voice calls out. Someone here? I freeze, portfolio in hand, caught between fight and flight. She appears in the doorway to the balcony, and time seems to stop. Her eyes move from my face to the portfolio in my hands, and I watch understanding dawn in her expression. Don't, she whispers, all her usual bravado gone. Skylar, please, that's my whole future. My books were my whole past, I reply, my voice steady despite the trembling in my chest. I said I was sorry. No, I correct her. You said I was being dramatic. You said they were just books. Because I didn't know what else to say. She takes a step forward, hands raised like she's approaching a wild animal. I felt so horrible. I couldn't face how badly I'd screwed up. Please, Unsky, don't do this. For a moment, I waver. Then I remember the ashes, the lost memories. Mom's handwriting turned to dust. Maybe you should have thought about consequences before you brought a candle into an attic full of irreplaceable books. I open the portfolio, and Reagan makes a sound I've never heard before, something between a gasp and a sob. Sky, she pleads one last time. Don't. But I'm already reaching for the matches she keeps by her trash can, my hands steady, my heart thundering in my chest. The match flares to life between my fingers, its small flame dancing in the afternoon breeze. Reagan lunges forward, but I step back, holding her portfolio over the trash can. Stay back, I warn, my voice surprisingly calm. Those pieces took me years, she says, tears streaming down her face. Please, just look at them first. Just look. Maybe it's the desperation in her voice, or maybe it's my own curiosity, but I find myself opening the portfolio. The first piece catches me off guard. It's a watercolor of Mom in her garden, laughing as she tends to her roses. The detail is incredible. Reagan even captured the small scar on Mom's hand from when she fell off her bike as a kid. When did you paint this? I ask, my voice barely a whisper. Last year. I used that old photo from the summer before. She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't have to. I flip to the next page, the match burning closer to my fingers. It's a series of sketches. Mom reading in her favorite armchair, surrounded by her beloved books. My throat tightens. You never showed me these. I was going to, Reagan says, taking a cautious step forward. I wanted them to be perfect first. The gallery submission. It's for a special exhibition. Legacy is the theme. The match burns my fingers and I drop it, letting it extinguish on the concrete. Reagan flinches but doesn't move. I turn another page and freeze. It's me, sitting cross-legged on Mom's hospital bed, reading Pride and Prejudice aloud while Mom sleeps. The details are painful in their accuracy. The dark circles under my eyes. The way Mom's hand rests on top of mine. The IV line snaking across the page. I sketched that from memory. Reagan says quietly. That last week, when you practically lived at the hospital, I'd come in the evenings and find you reading to her, even when she was too tired to stay awake. My hands start shaking. Stop it. The books weren't just your connection to Mom, Sky. I saw how much they meant to you both. That's why... She chokes back a sob. That's why I started this project. I wanted to capture those moments, preserve them somehow. I pull out another piece. This one's different. It's the beginning of what looks like a children's book, with whimsical illustrations of two little girls discovering magic in their mother's library. What's this? Reagan's voice gets even quieter. I found Mom's old journal in one of the books before the accident. She'd written down story ideas, little tales about two sisters who found adventure in books. I thought maybe we could bring them to life. The matchbook falls from my other hand. You were going to tell me about this when? At the gallery opening. I wanted it to be a surprise. I thought maybe we could work on it together, make it into something real. I looked down at the portfolio in my hands, really seeing it now. It's not just Reagan's art. It's our mother's legacy, transformed through her daughter's eyes. And I was about to destroy it. Just like... Oh God. I whisper, suddenly feeling sick. I was going to... But you didn't, Reagan says, finally closing the distance between us. She gently takes the portfolio from my hands. You stopped. You looked. That's more than I did with the books. I just rushed in, thinking I knew better, not even considering. I wanted to hurt you, I admit, my voice breaking. I wanted you to feel what I felt. I know. She sets the portfolio aside and, to my surprise, pulls me into a hug. I deserve it. What I did, it wasn't just careless, it was cruel. Even if I didn't mean it to be. I stand stiff in her embrace for a moment before collapsing against her, tears finally breaking free. I miss her so much. Me too, she whispers, her own tears falling into my hair. Every day, we stay like that for a long time, crying together on her balcony while the afternoon sun casts long shadows around us. Finally, I pull back, wiping my eyes. Show me more? I ask, gesturing to the portfolio. The children's book especially. I want to see what Mom was thinking. Reagan's face lights up with cautious hope. Really? You'd want to work on it together? Maybe, I say, surprising myself with how much I mean it. But first, you have to tell me everything you remember about Mom's notes. Every single detail. I will, she promises. But Sky, I really am sorry about the books. I know sorry doesn't fix it, but... No, I interrupt. It doesn't fix it. And we're going to have to talk about that. Really talk about it. But right now, I pick up the children's book sketches again, studying the joyful faces of the two sisters on the page. Right now, I want to hear about this story. The Adventures of the Book Sisters, I read aloud from Reagan's preliminary sketches. We're sitting on her living room floor, surrounded by art supplies and coffee mugs. That was Mom's working title? Yeah, Reagan says, pulling out more sketches. Look at this part. It's based on that time you convinced me there was a fairy living in the library's reference section. The illustration shows two girls, unmistakably us, peering behind encyclopedias with flashlights. The detail is incredible, right down to my missing front tooth and Reagan's unruly pigtails. My phone buzzes again. Probably Gerald or Nicole checking in, but I ignore it. Here's the weird thing, Reagan continues, pulling out a weathered notebook. I found this in Mom's copy of Little Women right before... She swallows hard. Well, you know, it's full of story notes, but look at the date. I take the notebook, my heart catching at Mom's familiar handwriting. The date shows 2 weeks before she died. She was writing this in the hospital? Reagan nods. Between treatments, the nurses said it kept her focused, gave her something to look forward to. I flip through the pages, each one filled with story ideas and character notes. Why didn't you tell me about this sooner? I wanted to illustrate it first. Make it perfect. I thought, she hesitates. I thought maybe it could heal something between us. We've been so distant since Mom died. Before I can respond, there's a knock at the door. Reagan opens it to find Nicole and Gerald standing there, both looking worried. You weren't answering your phones, Gerald says, stepping inside. His eyes dart between Reagan and me, clearly checking for signs of warfare. Nicole follows, her gaze landing on the portfolio and matches still sitting on the balcony. Oh God, did you— No, I interrupt. I didn't. I hold up Mom's notebook. But I found something else instead. They join us on the floor as Reagan and I explain about Mom's secret project. Nicole picks up one of the sketches, her eyes widening. This is incredible, Reagan. The way you've captured your mom's spirit. Show them the scene with the magical bookshelf, I suggest, surprising myself with my enthusiasm. As Reagan flips through her artwork, Gerald squeezes my hand. You okay? He whispers. Not really, I admit quietly. But maybe getting there. Wait. Nicole interrupts, pointing at something in Mom's notebook. What's this part about a hidden dedication? Reagan freezes. Oh, that's nothing. But I've already snatched the notebook, reading the passage Nicole pointed out. My hands start shaking. To my Skylar, I read aloud, who taught her little sister to love stories as much as I do. You were always the keeper of our family's tales, my darling girl. I hope this book shows you how much that meant to me. The room goes silent. I look up at Reagan, who won't meet my eyes. You knew about this dedication? My voice comes out harder than I intended. All this time? I found it the day before the accident, Reagan admits. I was going to show you, but then I got caught up trying to clear space in the attic for my art supplies, and the candle— She trails off, tears forming in her eyes. So you knew exactly what those books meant to me when you burned them. The earlier piece evaporates like smoke. You knew Mom had left me a message, and you still— It wasn't on purpose. Reagan stands up, knocking over her coffee. God, Sky, do you really think I deliberately destroy Mom's last words to you? To us? I don't know what to think anymore. I'm on my feet too, the notebook clutched to my chest. You kept this from me for weeks. Because I was trying to make it right. I thought if I could finish the illustrations, make the book real, it wouldn't bring back what you destroyed. Gerald steps between us. Hey, maybe we should all take a breath. No, I cut him off, backing toward the door. I need to not be here right now. Skylar, wait. Reagan pleads, reaching for me. Please, just let me explain. But I'm already gone, running down the stairs, Mom's notebook still pressed against my heart like a shield. I can hear footsteps behind me, probably Gerald, but I don't stop. I make it to my car before the tears start, hot and angry and confused. The notebook falls open in my lap, and Mom's words blur before my eyes. You were always the keeper of our family's tales. Not anymore, Mom. Those tales are ashes now, and I don't know how to tell stories without them. My phone buzzes with a text from Reagan. I never meant to keep secrets. I just wanted to give you back what I took away. Please come back so we can talk. I start the car instead, watching in my rearview mirror as Gerald and Nicole emerge from the building. They stand there, watching me drive away, looking as lost as I feel. I find myself parked outside Daisy's house without consciously deciding to come here. She opens the door before I can even knock, as if she's been expecting me. Nicole called, she explains, pulling me into a hug that smells like cinnamon and home. Come in, honey. I just made tea. Daisy has been our surrogate mother since Mom died. She was Mom's best friend for 30 years, and now she's the closest thing we have to a parent. I almost burned Reagan's portfolio, I blurt out as she guides me to her kitchen table. I know. She sets a steaming mug in front of me. And I also know you didn't. But I wanted to. My hands wrap around the warm ceramic. What kind of person does that make me? It makes you human. Daisy sits across from me, her kind eyes studying my face. Your mother would understand that better than anyone. What do you mean? Did Reagan ever tell you why your mom started collecting those books in the first place? I shake my head. They belonged to her sister, Amanda. Every single one of them. Mom didn't have a sister, I say automatically. Daisy's smile is sad. She did. Amanda died when your mom was 20. Car accident. Their parents had already passed, and Amanda's books were all your mom had left of her. My hands start shaking so badly that tea sloshes over the rim of my mug. Why didn't she ever tell us? Because Amanda's death nearly destroyed her. She spent years angry, bitter, pushing everyone away. Until one day, she decided to honor Amanda's memory instead of letting grief consume her. Daisy reaches across the table, covering my hand with hers. That's when she started writing stories in the margins, adding her own life to her sister's books, making them live again. And now they're gone too, I whisper. Yes, Daisy agrees. But look what's rising from those ashes. Reagan's art, your mother's stories, this children's book you two could create together. My phone buzzes again. Another text from Reagan. Found more of Mom's notes. There's a whole chapter about the time we turned the living room into a blanket fortress library. Remember that? Despite everything, I smile. I was 12, Reagan was 9, and we spent an entire rainy Saturday reading under blankets strung between chairs. Reagan's trying so hard, Daisy says gently. Maybe too hard in that clumsy way she's always had, but she's trying. She kept Mom's dedication secret, I argue, but my voice lacks conviction. Did she? Or was she trying to transform it into something beautiful first? Daisy stands, walking to her bookshelf. Your mother gave me something just before she died. I think it's time you had it. She returns with a small leather-bound journal. She asked me to give this to you both when the time was right. When you were ready to read it together. I open it with trembling fingers. The first page reads, To my beautiful girls. May you always find your way back to each other through stories, just like I found my way back to Amanda through her books. My vision blurs. I don't know how to fix this, Daisy. Don't you? She taps the journal. Your mother left you a map. Both of you. My phone buzzes one more time. Reagan again. I found Mom's old Polaroid camera in my closet. Remember how she used to document every blanket fortress we built? I have all the photos. Come back, please. We can look at them together. Daisy squeezes my shoulder. Sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones we need to hear most. I stand up, clutching Mom's journal. I need to go. I know. Daisy smiles. Tell Reagan I expect both of you for Sunday dinner. No excuses. The drive back to Reagan's apartment feels different this time. Instead of anger, I feel something else. A mix of hope and fear and possibility. I find Reagan sitting on her floor, surrounded by old Polaroids. She looks up when I enter, her eyes red but hopeful. You came back, she says softly. I hold up Mom's journal. Daisy had this. Mom wanted us to read it together. Reagan's eyes widen. Is that her story journal? The real one. I sit down beside her, picking up one of the Polaroids. Two little girls, gap-toothed and grinning, surrounded by books and blankets. Tell me about the chapter you're working on. The blanket fortress one. Really? When I nod, she reaches for her sketchbook. Well, I thought we could start with this scene here, where you're teaching me how to do different voices for each character. As she talks, her pencil moving across the page, I feel something shift inside me. Like a new story beginning to take shape. One written in both our voices this time. Read that part again, I say, pointing to a passage in Mom's journal. Reagan and I are sprawled on her living room floor, where we've been for hours, surrounded by sketches and memories. The girls never knew, Reagan reads, but watching them build their blanket fortresses reminded me so much of Amanda and me. Sky has her aunt's way of making stories come alive, while Reagan... She pauses, her voice catching. Go on, I encourage softly. While Reagan has her fierce creativity, just like I did at her age. Sometimes I watch them together and see myself and Amanda getting lost in our own little world of books and imagination. I can't believe she never told us about Amanda, I say, picking up one of Reagan's sketches. Two girls in a blanket fortress, one reading aloud while the other draws. Maybe it hurt too much. Reagan adds another detail to the sketch. Like how we barely talk about Mom. The truth of that statement hits hard. When did we stop talking about her? Probably around the time I started getting those gallery interviews and you got engaged to Gerald. Reagan sets down her pencil. It was easier to focus on the future than deal with the past. Until you burned it down, I say, but there's no heat in my words anymore. Yeah. Reagan meets my eyes. I really was trying to make space for my art supplies, you know. I thought if I could just get organized, finally make something of myself like you have. What are you talking about? I'm a middle school English teacher. Who's already department head at 28. Meanwhile, I'm still struggling to get my first gallery showing, living in a cramped studio, barely making rent. Is that what you think? I sit up straighter. Reagan, I've been jealous of your freedom for years. You're pursuing your dreams while I'm stuck following some safe, predictable path. Safe? Reagan laughs incredulously. You're changing kids' lives. Just last week you were telling me about that student who finally discovered reading through your creative writing class. That's different. No, it's not. You're doing exactly what Mom did, making stories come alive for people. Before I can respond, there's a knock at the door. It's Gerald and Nicole carrying takeout bags. We figured you two might be hungry, Nicole says, setting Chinese food containers on the coffee table. And we brought reinforcements, Gerald adds, pulling out a bottle of wine. As they set up dinner, Reagan shows them our progress on the children's book concept. Nicole gasps at the illustrations while Gerald reads passages from Mom's journal. Listen to this, he says. The girls don't realize it yet, but they're each other's best story, the one that keeps writing itself chapter after chapter. She really saw us clearly, didn't she? Reagan says quietly. Maybe more clearly than we saw ourselves, I admit. Nicole picks up one of the sketches. This is incredible, you two. Have you thought about actually publishing it? Reagan and I exchange looks. We've barely started, I begin. But you have all the pieces, Nicole interrupts. Mom's story notes, Reagan's illustrations, your teaching experience with children's literature. Plus, Gerald adds, I might know someone. My cousin works in children's publishing. I could make a call. Wait, I hold up my hand. Are we actually considering this? Reagan bites her lip. Would you want to? Work on it together, I mean. I look around at the scattered evidence of our shared history. Mom's journal, Reagan's art, old photos, half-eaten Chinese food. I think Mom would have loved it. That's not what I asked, Reagan says softly. Would you want to? Our eyes meet, and suddenly I'm remembering all those nights in our blanket fortresses, all the stories we created together before life and loss drove us apart. Yes, I say finally, but we do it right. We take our time. We honor her memory properly. And we talk about her, Reagan adds. No more avoiding the hard stuff. Deal. I reach for Mom's journal. Should we start with the chapter about the magical library cards? Reagan grabs her sketchbook, already smiling. Only if we include the part where you convinced me they could grant wishes if we shelved enough books. Oh God, I remember that. Nicole laughs. Didn't you end up reorganizing the entire school library? And got in trouble because we used our own system instead of Dewey Decimal. I grin. As Reagan starts sketching and I begin reading aloud from Mom's notes, I feel something settle into place. Like finding the right word in a sentence, or the perfect color in a painting. We're not okay yet, not completely, but we're writing a new chapter together. And somewhere, I think Mom is watching us build this new kind of fortress, one made of memories and hope instead of blankets and chairs. The publisher wants to see us next week, I announce, bursting into Reagan's apartment with my laptop. They love the concept. Reagan looks up from her drawing table, charcoal smudged across her cheek. Seriously? Already? Gerald's cousin showed them the preliminary sketches and Mom's story outline. They're calling it fresh and emotionally resonant. I set my laptop down, pulling up the email. They want to meet us both. Both of us? Reagan's voice carries a hint of anxiety. But you're the writer. And you're the artist. We're doing this together, remember? She nods, but I can see the tension in her shoulders. Walking over to her drawing table, I peek at what she's working on. It's the scene where the sisters discover their mother's magical bookmark. This is beautiful, I say, touching the corner of the page. You captured Mom's smile perfectly. Thanks, but... Reagan hesitates. I've been thinking about something. About that day with the books. My stomach tightens. What about it? I lied. She sets down her charcoal, finally meeting my eyes. The candle didn't just tip over. I was angry that day. Angry because I'd found Mom's notes about you being the keeper of stories. I felt left out, I guess. When I brought the candle up there, part of me was being careless on purpose. The silence that follows feels heavy enough to crush us both. Say something, Reagan whispers. I need air. I turn toward her small balcony, my hands shaking as I slide the door open. Reagan follows me out. I understand if you want to stop the project. Stop? I whirl around. You think that's what this is about? Isn't it? I just admitted I partially destroyed Mom's books on purpose. No, I say, surprising us both with my calm. You just finally told me the truth. Do you know how long I've been waiting for that? She blinks. What? I knew, Reagan. Maybe not consciously, but I knew it wasn't just an accident. That's why I wanted to burn your portfolio so badly. Because somewhere deep down, I recognized the intention behind what you did. Oh, God. She sinks into one of her balcony chairs. We're really messed up, aren't we? A laugh bubbles up from somewhere inside me. Slightly hysterical, but genuine. Yeah, we are. But you know what? So was Mom. What do you mean? I pull out Mom's journal from my bag. Listen to this entry. After Amanda died, I burned all her letters in a fit of rage. I thought it would help me let go, but it only made me hold on tighter. It took me years to understand that destroying memories doesn't erase the pain. It just creates new wounds. Reagan's eyes fill with tears. She never told us any of this. No, but she left us the story. And now, I gesture to her drawing table inside, visible through the glass door. Now we're turning it into something new. My phone rings. It's Gerald's cousin from the publishing house. Hello? I put it on speaker. Skylar? Is Reagan with you? I wanted to talk about moving up the meeting. We're really excited about this project, especially the parallel between your mother's story and the contemporary narrative you're creating. Reagan and I exchange looks. Actually, I say, we have a slightly different angle we'd like to pitch. It's about 3 generations of sisters and the stories that both break and heal them. I'm listening, the publisher says. It's about Mom and Amanda, too. Reagan adds quickly, about how some stories need to be burned before they can be reborn. There's a pause on the other end. Send me what you have. All of it. I want to see this new direction immediately. After we hang up, Reagan turns to me. Are we crazy? Changing everything this close to the meeting? Maybe. I pick up her charcoal, hand it to her. But I think this is the story Mom always wanted us to tell. We just needed to go through our own fire first to understand it. Reagan takes the charcoal, a small smile forming. Where should we start? With the truth, I say, opening Mom's journal to a fresh page. All of it. The ugly parts. The beautiful parts. The parts that hurt too much to look at directly. Like how I almost destroyed everything because I was jealous. And how I almost did the same thing right back. I squeeze her hand. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some stories need to be broken before they can be put back together. Reagan picks up her sketchbook, flips to a new page. Then let's break it right this time. Together. As she begins to draw and I start writing, I feel Mom's presence stronger than ever. Not in the ashes of her books, but in the new story taking shape between her daughters. Ready? Reagan asks, squeezing my hand as we stand outside the bookstore. Through the window, I can see the crowd gathering for our launch event. Familiar faces mixed with strangers, all waiting to hear our story. Almost. I pull out Mom's journal, now worn and paint-stained from countless hours of use. One last tradition? Reagan smiles, knowing exactly what I mean. We find a quiet corner by the store's entrance and sit cross-legged on the ground, just like we used to do in our blanket fortresses. Dear Mom, I begin, writing in the journal's final blank pages. Today we're sharing your story. All of it. The parts you told us, the parts you kept hidden, and the parts we had to discover on our own. Reagan takes the pen. We included Amanda too. She writes, your sister deserved to be part of this story, just like we finally learned to be part of each other's. Daisy appears around the corner, carrying what looks like an old cardboard box. Found something you girls might want to see before you go in. Inside the box are dozens of preserved book pages, slightly singed around the edges but intact. I salvaged what I could from the attic that day, Daisy explains. Been waiting for the right moment to show you. My hands shake as I lift out a page from Pride and Prejudice with Mom's familiar handwriting in the margins. You kept these all this time? Sometimes broken things need to be broken, Daisy says, echoing Mom's words from her journal. But that doesn't mean we can't save pieces of them. Reagan pulls out another page. It's from Little Women, with a sketch Mom had drawn of two girls reading. Look at the date, she whispers. This was right after Amanda died. She was always telling stories. Daisy smiles. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. Nicole pokes her head out the bookstore door. They're ready for you two. Gerald's already doing damage control with the publisher. Apparently having the authors sitting on the sidewalk isn't standard protocol. We laugh, gathering our things. Before we head in, Reagan grabs my arm. Sky? Thank you for not burning my portfolio that day. Thank you for finally telling me the truth about the books. And thank you both, Daisy adds, for giving your mother's story the ending she always wanted, her girls finding their way back to each other. Inside, the crowd hushes as we take our places at the reading table. Our book, The Library of Lost Sisters, sits between us, its cover showing 3 pairs of sisters across 3 generations, surrounded by books and art and magic. Gerald gives us a thumbs up from the back as I open to the first page. Reagan's illustrations seem to come alive under the bookstore lights. Mom and Amanda as young girls, then Reagan and me, all of us connected by the stories we tell and the ones we keep. Once upon a time, I begin, my voice steady. There were 2 sisters who thought they knew everything about their mother's stories. But sometimes the best stories are hidden in the margins, waiting to be discovered. Reagan picks up the narrative, pointing to her illustrations as she goes. The crowd leans in, caught up in our tale of loss and redemption, of sisters and secrets, of destruction and creation. When we finish reading, a little girl raises her hand. Did you really almost burn each other's stuff? We did, Reagan admits, because sometimes when we're hurting, we want others to hurt too. But then what happened? I share a look with my sister. Then we remembered something our mom taught us, that every ending can be a beginning, if you're brave enough to write it that way. The signing line forms, and as we autograph copies, I notice Reagan adding tiny sketches alongside her signature, little blanket fortresses and magical books, each one unique. A woman reaches the table with tears in her eyes. I lost my sister last year, she says. This book, it's helping me remember her the right way. That's exactly what Mom would have wanted, Reagan tells her softly. As the event winds down, I find myself holding our book, running my fingers over the dedication page. For Mom, who taught us that the best stories never really end. They just keep being retold in new ways. And for Amanda, the aunt we never knew but whose spirit lived in every book on our mother's shelves. Your stories live on in us. Reagan joins me, resting her head on my shoulder. Think they're proud of us? I know they are, Daisy says, appearing with the box of saved pages. Now, what do you say we take these home and add them to your next story? Looking at my sister, really looking at her, I see Mom's creativity and Amanda's passion for stories, all mixed together with Reagan's own fierce spirit. We may have lost some pieces of our past, but we've built something new from the ashes. Something that feels like both an ending and a beginning. Yes, I say, taking Reagan's hand. Let's write the next chapter together.
The crystal champagne flute trembled in my hand as I watched my sister-in-law Vivienne parade my daughter around the garden party like a prized show pony. And Eva's already been accepted to 3 Ivy League schools, she announced to anyone who would listen, her voice carrying across the manicured lawn. We're so proud, aren't we, darling? My name is Lena, and I used to be somebody in this family before my husband's death turned me into a ghost. Mom, did you hear? Yale's definitely interested. Eva bounced over, her eyes sparkling with the same excitement I used to see when she'd show me her artwork as a child. But now that sparkle wasn't for me, it was all for Vivian. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I reached out to hug her, but she was already turning away, drawn back into Vivian's orbit like a magnetic force I couldn't fight. Lena, dear, you're looking comfortable today, Vivian said, eyeing my simple blue dress. Though I suppose on a teacher's pension, one has to make do. She smoothed her own designer outfit, a knowing smile playing at her lips. Some of us prefer substance over show, Vivian. I kept my voice steady, even as my fingers tightened around the stem of my glass. Oh, but show is everything in our circles. She looped her arm through Eva's. Isn't that right, precious? Speaking of which, we simply must introduce you to Warren's son, Aiden. He's just returned from his semester in Monaco. I watched them glide away across the lawn, my daughter giggling at whatever poison Vivian was whispering in her ear. Around me, the party continued its elaborate dance, crystal tinkling, fake laughter, and the constant hum of money talking to money. You're looking murderous, hun. Rosalind, my best friend and fellow former teacher, appeared at my elbow with a fresh glass of champagne. Here, you need this more than I do. She's turning my own daughter against me, Roz. I accepted the glass, taking a long sip. Everything I say, everything I do, Vivian twists it into proof that I don't belong in this world anymore. Then maybe it's time to fight back, Rosalind suggested, watching as Vivian introduced Eva to a handsome young man I assumed was Aiden. You still have cards to play. More than she knows. I set down my glass, straightening my shoulders. Robert may have left me out of the business, but he didn't leave me powerless. Across the garden, I caught Vivian's eye. She was watching me, that same smug smile in place, as Eva laughed at something Aiden said. I raised my glass in a mock toast, and for just a moment, let my mask slip. Enjoy the high life for now, Vivian, I whispered, too softly for anyone but Rosalind to hear. Lena, Rosalind touched my arm. What are you planning? Before I could answer, Freddie, Vivian's husband, and my late husband's brother, approached us, looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit. Lena, could we have a word? I nodded, following him to a quieter corner of the garden. What is it, Freddie? Look, I know Vivian can be difficult. He ran a hand through his graying hair. But she means well. She just wants what's best for Eva. What's best for Eva, or what's best for Vivian's social climbing? I challenged him. When was the last time you saw my daughter pick up a paintbrush or laugh without checking to see if the right people were watching? Freddie shifted uncomfortably. Times change. People change. Eva's growing up. Into what? I watched as Vivian orchestrated a photo opportunity, positioning Eva between Aiden and his father Warren, a puppet, another society wife who measures her worth in thread count and country club memberships. You're being unfair, Freddie protested. But I could see the doubt in his eyes. Am I? Then why did Robert make me executor of Eva's trust instead of you and Vivian? I met his gaze steadily. He knew what would happen if the money came before the meaning. Freddie's face paled slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying enjoy the party, brother-in-law. I patted his arm and turned away, catching Vivian's suspicious glance in my direction. And tell your wife she might want to be a little nicer to the ghost in the family. Some of us have more substance than she thinks. As I walked away, I heard Eva's laughter floating across the garden. That practiced perfect sound that had replaced her real joy. But soon she would understand. Soon they all would, because Robert hadn't just left me his money, he'd left me his wisdom. And the will I'd been quietly preparing would ensure our daughter learned the lesson Vivian never could. That true worth isn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the depth of your character and the strength of your convictions. I just hoped Eva would forgive me for what came next. "Mom, look what I painted." Eva's voice echoed in my memory as I stood in her old art room, my fingers trailing over dusty canvases stacked against the wall. The space still smelled of acrylics and possibility, though no one had touched a brush here in over 2 years. "You're torturing yourself again," Rosalind said from the doorway. She'd come over to help me sort through some of Robert's old papers, but found me here instead. "Look at this one." I pulled out a canvas, a riot of colors, depicting our old family beach house. She painted this the summer before Robert died, before Vivian decided art wasn't sophisticated enough for a girl of Eva's standing. "I remember when she won that youth art competition," Rosalind said, stepping into the room. "Vivian actually showed up for that one." "Yes, and spent the whole time telling everyone how Eva was just exploring her creative phase before focusing on more suitable pursuits." I set the painting down carefully. That was the beginning of the end. The doorbell rang, interrupting my brooding. Through the security camera feed on my phone, I saw Martina waiting on the front step, clutching her usual folder of community project documents. "Come in," I called, meeting her in the foyer. "Sorry about the mess. We're doing some organizing." "No problem, Mrs. H." Martina's enthusiasm was infectious as always. "I brought the final proposals for the youth center renovation. The kids have some amazing ideas." We spread the documents across the kitchen island, and I felt the familiar surge of purpose that came with our community work. This was what Robert and I had always planned, using our resources to make real change, not just throwing money at charity galas. "Mom?" Eva's voice startled us all. She stood in the kitchen doorway, looking polished and perfect in her designer outfit. "I thought we had lunch plans." My heart sank. "That was yesterday, sweetheart. You canceled, remember? Vivian had tickets to that fashion show." "Oh, right." She shifted uncomfortably, eyeing Martina and the papers. "What's all this?" "The youth center project," I explained, hoping to spark her interest. "Remember how you used to help with the art programs there?" "That was ages ago," Ava dismissed, but I caught her glancing at the drawings some of the kids had submitted. "Anyway, I came to get my pearl earrings. Aiden's taking me to dinner at LeBlanc." "They're in your old jewelry box," I said. "Ava, why don't you stay for a bit? Martina could use some input on the art room design." "I can't. Vivian's taking me shopping first. She says presentation is everything at LeBlanc." Ava turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, by the way, Aunt Vivian mentioned something about the trust fund. She said you're being difficult about releasing funds for my gap year travels." My blood ran cold. So that's what this surprise visit was really about. "Your trust fund isn't a blank check, Ava. Your father set specific conditions. Conditions that you're in charge of." She cut in, sounding exactly like Vivienne. "Aunt Vivienne says you're just bitter because you never fit into Dad's world." "Ava," Rosalind exclaimed, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Is that what you think?" I asked quietly. "That I'm bitter about not fitting into Dad's world? The world I shared with him for 20 years while building everything you take for granted." Eva had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I didn't mean, your father's world wasn't about designer labels and society parties," I continued. "It was about making a difference, about using privilege responsibly. Maybe you should ask Vivienne how many youth centers she's helped build, or how many scholarship programs she's funded." "That's not fair," Eva protested. "Aunt Vivian does lots of charity work. She's on 3 benefit committees. Planning parties isn't the same as doing the work, sweetie." I softened my tone. "Stay. Help us with this. Remember how much you loved working with the kids? For a moment, I saw a flicker of my old Eva, the one who spent summers teaching art to underprivileged children, who cried at fundraiser videos, who wanted to change the world with her paintbrush. Then her phone buzzed. Vivian's name flashed on the screen. "I have to go," she said, already backing away. "The earrings. Top drawer, left side," I said wearily. "Have fun at dinner." After she left, Martina cleared her throat. "She seems different from what you've described." "She is different," Rosalind said, squeezing my shoulder. "But not for long, right?" I nodded, pulling out my phone to text my lawyer. Time to move up the timeline. Vivian's making her move for the trust fund. "What are you going to do?" Rosalind asked. I looked at the youth center plans, at the dreams and hopes scattered across my kitchen island. "I'm going to save my daughter, even if she hates me for it. Because sometimes love means being the villain in someone else's story, at least until they're ready to see the truth." "Are you absolutely certain about these terms, Lena?" My lawyer, David, peered at me over his reading glasses. "They're rather unconventional." "Robert was unconventional," I replied, watching rain streak down the office windows. "He believed money without purpose corrupts. These terms honor that belief." "Vivian won't like it." David shuffled the papers, making Eva's full inheritance conditional on community service, education requirements, and a year of independent living. "She'll fight this." "Let her. Everything here is legal and aligned with Robert's original wishes." I signed the final document. My daughter needs to understand where she comes from before she can know where she's going. Later that afternoon, I drove to the family estate where Robert's mother, Jacqueline, still lived. The imposing gates opened automatically. At least, I hadn't been stripped of that privilege yet. The housekeeper led me to the conservatory, where Jacqueline sat reading, surrounded by her beloved orchids. She barely looked up as I entered. "Twice in 1 month," she remarked dryly. "To what do I owe the pleasure? You know why I'm here." I took the seat across from her. "Eva's changing, and not for the better. Vivian's influence is none of my concern." Jacqueline turned a page. "The girl's 18. Let her make her own choices. Like you let Vivian make her choices when she convinced Robert to restructure the company board? Right before he died." The words hung in the air like smoke. That got her attention. Jacqueline's head snapped up, her eyes sharp. "Careful, Lena." "No, you be careful." I leaned forward. "Your granddaughter is turning into exactly the kind of person Robert worried about. All surface, no substance. And you're sitting here with your orchids, pretending not to see it. What exactly do you expect me to do?" Jacqueline's voice held a hint of defensiveness. "Eva admires Vivian. She's young, attracted to that lifestyle." "She's lost," I interrupted, "and her grandmother, the family matriarch, could help guide her back, if she cared enough to try." Before Jacqueline could respond, voices drifted in from the hallway. Ava's laugh, followed by Vivienne's distinctive tone. They appeared in the doorway, dressed for tennis. "Grandmother, oh." Eva stopped short at the sight of me. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Just visiting," I said, standing. "I was actually hoping to catch you. Are you free for dinner tomorrow? Just us." Eva glanced at Vivienne, who spoke before she could answer. "Oh, darling, remember, we have the charity gala tomorrow. The one where you're being introduced to the hospital board?" "Right. Sorry, Mom." Eva didn't look particularly sorry. "Maybe next week?" "The hospital board?" I raised an eyebrow. "I didn't realize you were interested in healthcare administration." "Well, someone needs to carry on Robert's legacy there," Vivian cut in smoothly. "And Eva has such natural leadership qualities, don't you, precious?" I watched my daughter beam at the praise, and something inside me cracked. "Robert's legacy? You mean the hospital wing he funded for pediatric cancer research? The one inspired by his work with actual sick children, not cocktail parties?" "Mom, please don't start." Ava's face flushed. "This is important to me." "Is it? Or is it important to Vivian?" I challenged. "When was the last time you visited the children's ward, talked to a patient, Or are you just there to pose for photos? That's enough. Vivian stepped forward, placing herself between Eva and me. You're embarrassing yourself, Lena. Eva's growing into her role in society. Just because you never could. I chose not to. I corrected her. There's a difference. Grandmother, please tell Mom she's being ridiculous. Eva appealed to Jacqueline, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. The old woman looked between us, then returned to her book. I believe I'll stay out of this. Fine. Eva grabbed her tennis bag. Come on, Aunt Vivienne. We'll be late for our court time. And Mom? Don't bother with dinner invites for a while. I'm going to be very busy. They swept out, leaving me alone with Jacqueline and her orchids. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. You'll lose her if you push too hard, Jacqueline finally said, not looking up. I'm already losing her. I moved to the door, then paused. You know what Robert would say about all this? Robert's not here. Jacqueline's voice was tired. And the living must make their own choices. Yes, I agreed. They must, and I've made mine. Walking to my car, I texted David. Proceed with the will filing. It's time. My phone buzzed immediately with his response. Are you sure, once this starts? I watched through the conservatory windows as Vivian and Eva crossed the tennis courts, their laughter carrying across the manicured grounds. My daughter, so beautiful, so lost, playing a game she didn't even realize she was losing. Yes, I typed back, I'm sure. Because sometimes the kindest cut is the deepest, and the truest love knows when to let the storm come. The anonymous letter arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between bills and junk mail. No return address, just my name in careful block letters. Inside, a single typed page. Mrs. Harper, Vivienne is planning to contest the trust fund terms. She's already contacted 3 lawyers. Watch your back. A friend. Well, that's ominous, Rosalind said, reading over my shoulder at my kitchen counter. Any idea who sent it? Could be anyone from the family lawyer's office to the household staff. I folded the letter carefully, but they're right. Vivian's been too quiet lately. So what's the plan? Rosalind pulled out her phone. I can still get us into tonight's charity dinner. My cousin's on the committee. Perfect, I smiled. Time to do some reconnaissance. The ballroom of the Grand Hotel sparkled with crystal and old money. I wore my best dress, a classic black number that helped me blend into the background. Rosalind and I separated, working the room from different angles. Did you hear about the trust fund drama? I overheard one society wife whisper to another. Vivian says Lena's gone power mad, trying to control Eva's future. Shocking, her friend replied. After everything Vivian's done for that girl, I gritted my teeth and moved on, catching snippets of similar conversations. Vivian had been busy, spinning her web of sympathy through the social circles. Mom? Eva's voice startled me. She stood with Aiden, both dressed impeccably. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Last-minute decision, I said lightly. You look beautiful, sweetheart. Thanks. She shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Vivienne mentioned something about the trust fund. Did she? I kept my voice neutral. And what exactly did she mention? Just that you're being difficult. Eva wouldn't meet my eyes. That you're trying to control my life with Dad's money. Is that what you think? I asked quietly. Before she could answer, Vivian materialized beside them. Eva, darling, the hospital board members are asking for you. Aiden, be a dear and escort her? Once they left, Vivian's smile turned cold. Crashing parties now, Lena. How desperate. Just supporting the cause, I replied. Though I noticed the donation cards don't mention actual amounts. Trying to hide your creative accounting. Vivian's eyes narrowed. I don't know what you think you're implying. Ladies, Freddie appeared, looking flustered. There you are, Vivian. Warren's looking for you. Something about the summer house arrangements. After she left, Freddie grabbed my arm. We need to talk. Now. He led me to a quiet alcove, off the main ballroom. Look, I know what Vivian's planning with the trust fund. She's been meeting with lawyers behind my back. And you're telling me this why? Because it's wrong. He ran a hand through his hair. Robert wanted Eva to learn responsibility, not become another trust fund brat. She's changed. Everything's about appearances now, money, status. Finally noticed, did you? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. I should have stepped in sooner, he admitted. But you should know, she's planning something big. Tonight, she's going to. A commotion from the ballroom cut him off. We hurried back to find Vivienne at the podium, Eva beside her. And so, Vivienne was saying into the microphone, we're thrilled to announce that Eva will be taking over as chair of the hospital's youth outreach program, following in her father's footsteps, but with her own modern vision. The crowd applauded. Eva beamed. I felt sick. Of course, Vivienne continued, her eyes finding me in the crowd. Some people think the old ways are best. That money should come with strings attached. But we believe in empowering our next generation to forge their own paths. More applause, more knowing looks in my direction. That manipulative witch, Rosalind whispered, appearing beside me. She's using your own cause against you. She's also embezzling from the hospital foundation, Freddie said quietly. I found the proof last week. That's what I was trying to tell you. I watched Eva on stage, glowing under the attention, under Vivienne's false praise. My daughter, being used as a pawn in a game she didn't even understand. Freddie, I said carefully, how would you like to help me save your niece? What do you need? Those embezzlement records, for starters. I met his eyes. And your testimony about Vivienne's plans for the trust fund. He hesitated only briefly. Done. But Lena, make it count, make it hurt. Oh, it will. I watched Vivienne pose for photos with Eva, both of them radiant with false victory. By the time I'm done, she'll wish she'd never heard the name Harper. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with receipts, witnesses, and perfect timing. And my timing was about to become very perfect indeed. Your mother's not answering her phone. Vivienne's irritated voice echoed through the youth center hallway. I froze, then quickly ducked into the art supply room. Eva wasn't supposed to be here today. She's probably busy, Eva replied. Their footsteps getting closer. I don't know why we need to check on the youth center anyway. The board handles everything. Because, darling, we need to document all of Lena's activities for the lawyers. I held my breath as they passed the supply room. Through the crack in the door, I could see Eva's uncertain expression. Martina, Vivienne called out. Is anyone here? Hi. Martina emerged from her office, clipboard in hand. Can I help you? Eva is here to inspect the facility, Vivienne announced. As the new youth outreach chair, she needs to understand the operation. Martina's eyes flickered to the supply room. She knew I was here, preparing for tomorrow's art therapy session. Of course, though you just missed the most inspiring part of our day. The kids finished their mural project. How quaint. Vivienne's voice dripped condescension. Eva, darling, make some notes. We'll need to modernize all this. Perhaps a digital arts program instead. Actually, Martina said, this program was designed by Eva herself 3 years ago. Remember, Eva, you taught that first summer workshop. The silence that followed felt heavy with memory. Yeah, Eva said softly. We painted butterflies with the cancer patients. They still talk about that, Martina continued. In fact, Sarah, you remember Sarah? She's in remission now, and she's teaching her own art classes here. Sarah made it. Eva's voice cracked slightly. She was so sick. Oh, please, Vivienne interrupted. That's all very touching. But we're here to evaluate, not reminisce. Now, about the budget. A child's laughter interrupted her, followed by the sound of running feet. A small girl in a bright yellow dress burst into the hallway, clutching a painting. Miss Martina, look what Oh, the girl stopped short at the sight of strangers. Hello, Lucy, Martina smiled. Show us what you made. Lucy held up her painting proudly. It was a butterfly painted in brilliant blues and purples. I did it just like in the pictures, Lucy announced. The ones from Miss Eva's class. Miss Martina said you used to teach here, she added. looking at Eva with wide eyes. I watched through the crack as my daughter knelt down to Lucy's level. Something soft and real, breaking through her polished exterior. "That's beautiful," Eva said. "You know, butterflies were my favorite thing to paint too." "Really? Will you show me how to do the sparkly wings?" Miss Martina tried, but she said you were better at it. "Ava," Vivian cut in sharply, "we have that lunch appointment." Ava looked torn, glancing between Lucy's hopeful face and Vivian's stern one. "The budget reports," Vivian pressed. "The lawyers are waiting." Eva stood slowly, her shoulders stiffening. "Sorry, Lucy, maybe another time. But you promised to teach art classes again," Lucy protested. "It's on the wall." She pointed to a framed newspaper article I knew well. Ava's smiling face, surrounded by young cancer patients, promising to return every summer to teach art. "Things change, sweetie," Vivian said smoothly. "Ava has more important responsibilities now. Come along, darling." They turned to leave, but Lucy called out one last time. "Your mom still teaches us, you know. She says art helps heal our hearts." Eva stopped dead. "My mom. She teaches here. Every Tuesday and Thursday," Martina confirmed. "She took over your classes after you stopped coming." "I didn't." Eva turned to Vivienne. "You told me the program was shut down, that they didn't want art classes anymore." "I was protecting you," Vivienne said quickly. "These people, this place, it's all beneath you now. You have real opportunities." "Real opportunities?" Martina's voice was quiet but firm. "Like what? Planning parties while your mother actually helps kids heal? You know, Eva, she still hangs every butterfly painting in the cancer ward, just like you used to." I could see the conflict on Eva's face, the crack in her carefully constructed world. But before she could respond, Vivian grabbed her arm. "We're leaving. Now." She practically dragged Eva toward the exit. "And we'll be discussing the future of this facility's funding very soon." After they left, I finally emerged from the supply room. Lucy looked up at me with worried eyes. "Did I say something wrong, Miss Lena?" I knelt and hugged her tight. "No, sweetheart, you said everything exactly right." Martina touched my shoulder. She remembered Lena. "Did you see her face when Lucy showed the butterfly?" I nodded, hope blooming in my chest like one of Lucy's painted wings, because for just a moment I'd seen my real daughter again, the one who believed in healing hearts through art, not social climbing through charity galas. The crack was there. Now I just had to make it wide enough for the truth to shine through. "Sign here, Eva." Warren pushed the legal document across his mahogany desk. "It's a simple petition to remove your mother as trustee." I watched through the glass wall of the conference room, my heart pounding. After Freddie's tip, I'd arrived at Warren's law office just in time. "I don't know." Eva hesitated, pen hovering above the paper. "Shouldn't we wait until after the will reading tomorrow?" "Absolutely not," Vivian snapped. "Your mother's planning something. We need to act now." I chose that moment to walk in. "You're right about one thing, Vivian. I am planning something." "This is a private meeting," Warren said, smoothly, trying to slide the papers into a folder. "Nothing about my daughter's future is private to me." I placed my own folder on the desk. "Ava, before you sign anything, there's something you need to see." "Don't," Vivian warned. "She's trying to manipulate you, like you've been manipulating her." I pulled out a document. "Ava, do you know what your father's original vision was for your trust?" Eva glanced at Vivian, then back at me. "He wanted me to have security. He wanted you to have purpose," I corrected, "which is why he left this letter." I handed Eva an envelope, sealed with Robert's personal stamp. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "My dearest Ava," she read aloud, "if you're reading this, you're about to make a choice that will define your future. Money can be a bridge to dreams or a barrier to growth. That's why I've arranged something special for you. A chance to see the world as I did when I was young." She looked up, confused. "What does he mean?" "Your father spent a year working with humanitarian projects before starting his business," I explained. It shaped everything he became. He arranged the same opportunity for you. What? Vivian snatched the letter. This is ridiculous. Eva has commitments here, the hospital board, her social obligations. A year of real work, I continued, ignoring Vivian. With real people. Teaching art, therapy, in underprivileged communities, just like you used to dream about. Stop this, Warren interrupted. Eva, sign the petition. We can contest this manipulation. But Eva was staring at another photo that had fallen from the envelope. Her father in worn jeans and a t-shirt, surrounded by smiling children, paintbrushes in hand. Dad did this, she whispered. It's where he learned what truly mattered, I said softly. Where he decided to use his wealth for something bigger than status. Don't listen to her, Vivian pleaded. Think about Aiden, your future, everything we've planned. You mean everything you've planned? Eva's voice had an edge I hadn't heard in years. Did you know about Dad's work? About any of this? Vivian's silence was answer enough. The choice is yours, I said. Sign Warren's petition, take control of the trust, live the life Vivian's designed for you, or honor your father's wishes, travel, teach, create, make your own mark on the world. She's 18, Warren protested. She can't possibly. I'll do it, Eva interrupted. We all stared at her. Dad's project, I want to do it. Eva, no. Vivian grabbed her arm. Think about what you're giving up. I'm thinking about Lucy, Eva said quietly. And Sarah. And all the kids I abandoned because you told me I was meant for better things. What's better than helping people heal through art? That's what Dad did, isn't it, Mom? I nodded, throat tight with emotion. This is insane, Warren blustered. Vivian, do something. But Eva was already ripping up the petition. I'm done letting you plan my life, Aunt Vivian. I want to make Dad proud. I want to make myself proud. You'll regret this, Vivian hissed. When you're stuck in some third world dump while your friends enjoy luxury. The only thing I regret, Eva cut her off, is letting you convince me that luxury matters more than legacy. She turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw my daughter, really saw her. When do we start? The will reading is tomorrow, I said. Everything will be explained then. Are you sure about this? Eva picked up her father's photo again, tracing his smile with her finger. Yes, I think I finally understand what he was trying to teach me, what you've been trying to teach me. This isn't over, Vivian snapped, gathering her designer bag. Warren, we'll contest everything, the will, the trust, all of it. Good luck, I smiled. Robert's wishes are quite clear, and now, so are Eva's. After they stormed out, Eva turned to me, tears in her eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry for everything. Don't be sorry. I hugged her close. Be ready. Tomorrow changes everything. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about rebuilding what they tried to tear down, one brush stroke at a time. The family lawyer's office felt too small for the tension it contained. Vivian sat with her legal team, shooting daggers at me across the conference table. Eva sat between us, back straight, hands folded. Freddie, Jacqueline, and various other family members lined the walls. David cleared his throat. Before we begin the formal reading, there's evidence of financial misconduct that must be addressed. Objection, Warren started, but David held up a hand. This isn't a courtroom, Warren. And you might want to hear this before you speak. He slid a folder across the table. Bank records showing systematic embezzlement from the hospital foundation. Care to explain? Vivian. The color drained from her face. This is absurd. I demand. I can confirm these records. Freddie spoke up, his voice steady. I found them last week. Money meant for the children's ward, redirected to personal accounts. Vivian whirled on him. You snake? After everything I've done for you. For me. Freddie laughed bitterly. You mean like maxing out our credit cards? Mortgaging the house without telling me? It's over, Vivian. I've already spoken to the hospital board. If we could proceed, David interrupted, opening Robert's will. The terms are quite specific. Eva squeezed my hand as David began to read. The room grew quieter with each revelation. The bulk of the estate is to be held in trust, managed by Lena, with the following conditions for Eva's inheritance: 1 year of humanitarian work through the Robert Harper Foundation, followed by completion of a degree in either social work, education, or arts therapy. This is ridiculous, Vivian burst out. She's being forced into poverty work. I'm being given a chance to make a difference, Eva corrected her. Like Dad did. David continued. Furthermore, any attempt to contest these terms or manipulate their execution will result in the entire trust being redirected to establish art therapy programs in children's hospitals worldwide. Warren slumped in his chair. Vivienne's lawyers started whispering urgently. There's more, David added. Regarding the hospital foundation. He looked directly at Vivienne. Any board member found misappropriating funds will be permanently barred from involvement, and their actions will be reported to the proper authorities. You can't prove anything, Vivienne hissed, but her hands were shaking. Actually, Freddie pulled out his phone. I recorded our conversation from last week, the one where you explained exactly how you've been moving the money around. Would you like to hear it? The room erupted in chaos. Vivian's lawyers huddled around her. Warren tried to intervene, and several family members started arguing loudly. Quiet, Jacqueline's voice cut through the noise. She stood slowly, commanding attention as only a family matriarch could. I've heard enough. Vivian, you're done here. Get out. Mother, please. I said get out, and expect a call from the hospital board's ethics committee. Jacqueline turned to Ava. As for you, my dear, your father would be proud of your decision. Eva's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? Jacqueline smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from her in years. In fact, I have something for you. She pulled out an old, worn sketchbook. Your father's journal from his humanitarian year. I've been saving it for the right moment. As Eva clutched the journal, Vivian made one last desperate play. Ava, think about what you're giving up. The parties, the connections, your future with Aiden. My future is my own. Eva stood, voice firm, and I choose to build it on something real. Then you're as foolish as your mother, Vivian spat, gathering her things. Good luck saving the world with paintbrushes and poverty tours. Better than stealing from sick children, I replied calmly. The police will be very interested in those bank records, by the way. Vivian stormed out, Warren trailing behind her. The room gradually emptied until only Eva, Jacqueline, and I remained. I should have stepped in sooner, Jacqueline said quietly, watched more closely, protected what Robert built. We all should have done many things, I replied, but we're doing them now. Eva opened her father's journal, gasping at a butterfly sketch on the first page. Dad drew these too. Every day, Jacqueline smiled. He said art was the universal language of hope. When do I leave? Eva asked, looking up at me. For the humanitarian project. 2 weeks, I said. Unless you want more time to… No, she interrupted. I've wasted enough time trying to be someone else. She hugged the journal close. I want to be me again. As we left the office, I saw Rosalind waiting in the lobby. She took one look at our faces and broke into a huge smile. Time to restart those art classes? She asked Eva. Time to restart everything, Eva replied. And for the first time in years, her smile reached her eyes. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying what's wrong, but in rebuilding what's right, one brave choice at a time. Hold still, Lucy, Eva laughed, adjusting the little girl's smock. The paint goes on the canvas, not in your hair. I watched from the doorway of the youth center's art room as my daughter led her class through their butterfly project. The walls were covered in vibrant wings, each one unique, each one healing someone's heart. Miss Eva, look, Lucy held up her painting proudly. I made it sparkly, just like you showed me. It's beautiful, Eva beamed. Want to hang it in the cancer ward with the others. The door behind me opened, and Martina entered with a stack of papers. The police just called. They're filing formal charges against Vivian tomorrow. How much did she take? I asked quietly, not wanting to disturb the class. Over 2 million, all meant for the children's medical equipment. Martina shook her head. Freddie's testimony sealed it. She's facing serious time. A small commotion drew our attention back to the art room. Aiden stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. "Eva," he called out, "can we talk?" Eva wiped paint from her hands. "I'm teaching Aiden. These kids are more important than whatever party invitation you're here to deliver." "It's not that." He shifted nervously. "Dad's really sorry about everything. About backing Vivian, about the trust fund fight. He wants to make a donation to the program." "Tell him thank you," Ava replied firmly. "But we don't need his money. What these kids need is time, attention, and genuine care. If he wants to help, he can volunteer, like I do, like Mom does. I could, maybe." Aiden looked around at the children painting. "I used to draw, you know, before Dad said it wasn't practical." Eva's expression softened slightly. "We teach adult classes on Thursdays, if you're interested in finding yourself again." The moment was interrupted by Jacqueline's arrival. She carried a large canvas, covered in cloth. "Grandmother." Eva helped her with the package. "What's this?" "Something your father painted during his humanitarian year." Jacqueline removed the cloth, revealing a stunning mural of butterflies rising from a city in ruins. He called it "Hope Takes Flight." The children gathered around, oohing and ahhing at the artwork. Eva traced the signature with trembling fingers. "I thought," she looked at me, "I thought Dad was just a businessman." "He was everything," I said softly. "That's what he wanted for you, not to choose between worlds, but to bridge them." "Miss Eva," Lucy tugged at her sleeve, "can we paint something big like that? For the hospital?" "Actually," Martina stepped forward, "we just got approval to paint a mural in the children's ward. If you're interested in leading the project." Eva's eyes lit up. "Really? But what about my trip? I leave for Guatemala next week." "The mural can wait," I assured her. "Your journey comes first." "About that," Aiden spoke up, "I've been thinking. The trip your dad planned, helping people through art, it sounds more meaningful than another year of business school. Maybe I could join you." Eva studied him thoughtfully. "It won't be luxury hotels and cocktail parties." "Good," he replied. "I'm tired of those anyway." A small hand slipped into mine, and I looked down to find Lucy watching the exchange. "Is Miss Eva leaving us?" she asked worriedly. "Just for a little while, sweetheart." I knelt beside her. "She's going to help other children, like her dad did. But she'll come back with new stories, new techniques, and an even bigger heart. Promise." Lucy looked at Eva. Eva joined us, paint-stained and glowing with purpose. "I promise. And when I come back, we'll paint the biggest, brightest butterflies this hospital has ever seen." Speaking of butterflies, Jacqueline pulled out an envelope. "I found these in Robert's things, photos from his first art therapy class in Guatemala." As Eva and the children crowded around to see, I stepped back and watched my daughter, my real daughter, shine in the life she was meant to live. Rosalind appeared beside me. "You did it, Lena. You got her back." "No," I corrected her, watching Eva show Lucy how to hold a brush like her father did in the photos. She found herself. Sometimes love means stepping back and trusting the path, even when others try to block it. "Miss Lena," Lucy called out, "come paint with us. Miss Eva says we're all going to make butterflies for Miss Vivian in jail, to help her heart heal too." I laughed, catching Eva's eye. My daughter smiled, not the polished society smile Vivienne had taught her, but her real radiant, paint-smudged smile. "Coming," I grabbed a smock, because sometimes the best revenge isn't about punishment at all. It's about creating something beautiful from the ashes of what others tried to destroy. And as I joined my daughter at the easel, surrounded by children's laughter and butterflies taking flight, I knew Robert was watching, smiling, proud of the masterpiece our daughter had become.
The day my family discovered I was a stripper started like any other Tuesday. I was counting my tips from the night before when my mother's number flashed across my phone screen. That call changed everything. My name is Violet, and I never planned on taking my clothes off for money. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. I was 22, struggling through my final year of college and drowning in student debt when my roommate Gianna suggested dancing at the Pearl. "Mum, I can explain," I said, my voice trembling as I gripped the phone. "Explain? Explain?" Her voice cracked with rage. "Mrs. Peterson saw you at that disgusting establishment. Do you know what this will do to our family's reputation?" I closed my eyes, feeling my world crumble. Mrs. Peterson, our neighbour whose daughter I used to babysit. Of course she'd run straight to my mother. "I needed the money for school," I said quietly. "The writing programme. The writing programme, that useless degree you insisted on pursuing instead of law school?" She was practically screaming now. "Get home now! Your father needs to hear this directly from you." 2 hours later, I stood in our pristine living room, facing my parents and my brother Andre. Mom sat rigid on her favourite armchair, while Dad paced by the fireplace. Andre leaned against the wall, his expression unreadable. "How long?" Dad's voice was ice cold. 8 months. Mom let out a strangled sob. 8 months of prostituting yourself? "I'm not a prostitute," I shot back, anger finally breaking through my fear. "I dance. I pay my bills. I maintain a 4.0 GPA. I haven't asked you for a single penny since you cut off my tuition. Because we refused to fund that ridiculous writing degree." Mom sprang to her feet. "We had your life planned out perfectly. Law school, then joining your father's firm. But no, you had to chase some childish dream of becoming an author." Andre finally spoke up. "Mom, maybe we should stay out of this." Both our parents snapped simultaneously. I looked at my brother, seeing the conflict in his eyes. He'd always been the good child, following the path our parents laid out. Now he was a junior partner at Dad's firm, living the life they'd wanted for me. "I'm not ashamed," I said firmly, though my hands were shaking. "I work hard, I'm safe, and I'm paying my own way through school." Dad stopped pacing. "No daughter of mine will be a stripper." The finality in his voice made my blood run cold. "Then I guess I'm not your daughter anymore," I whispered. Mom gasped. "You don't mean that." "No, Mom, you don't mean that. You're the ones making this choice." I turned to face them all. "I'm adult enough to make my own decisions, and I'm adult enough to live with the consequences." "Violet," Andre stepped forward, but Dad held up his hand. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." Dad's words fell like hammer blows. "We will not have this shame in our family." I looked at each of them. Mom's tears, Dad's stone face, Andre's helpless expression. Years of conditional love and impossible expectations crystallized in that moment. "Goodbye then," I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. "I hope your reputation was worth it." I walked out of that house with nothing but my car keys and the clothes on my back. Gianna was waiting in her beat-up Honda around the corner. I'd texted her on the way over, knowing I might need an escape plan. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a fierce hug. "Your room at my place is ready. We'll get through this." That night, curled up on Gianna's spare mattress, I made myself a promise. I would prove them all wrong. I would turn their shame into my success. I would make my childish dream of becoming an author reality. "You okay?" Gianna asked from the doorway. I wiped my eyes and sat up. "No, but I will be. I'm working double shifts at the Pearl this week. I need to make up for the textbooks I left behind." "And you're writing?" "I'm not giving up on that either." I managed a small smile. "Maybe this will give me something real to write about." Gianna nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Good, because the world needs to hear your voice, not their expectations." As I lay back down, I thought about the manuscript hidden on my laptop. A story about a girl breaking free from golden handcuffs. It had felt like fiction when I started it. Now it was my reality. Tomorrow I would dance. I would write. I would survive. And someday I would thrive. Not despite their rejection, but because of it. They thought they were writing the end of my story. They didn't realize they were only writing the beginning. And that's when the stripper pole broke. I finished my story, and the audience erupted in laughter. The bookstore was packed, standing room only, with readers clutching copies of my latest bestseller, Dancing Through Darkness. 6 years had passed since that Tuesday when my family cast me out. Now, at 28, I was living a life they couldn't have imagined for me, or maybe just couldn't have accepted. Ms. Violet, a young woman raised her hand during the Q&A. How much of your success do you attribute to your past experiences? I smiled, remembering the nights at the Pearl that had funded not just my degree, but my first laptop, my first apartment, and the countless writing workshops that shaped my craft. All of it, I answered honestly. Every story needs truth at its core. Mine just happens to have a few sequins and 6-inch heels mixed in. After the signing, Caden, my publisher, pulled me aside. Your numbers are through the roof. The authenticity resonates with readers. They can tell you've lived these stories. Speaking of stories, Gianna interrupted, waving her phone, you need to see this. She handed me her phone, open to a local news article. The headline made my heart stop. Murray and Associates law firm faces bankruptcy amid investment scandal. Your father's firm, Gianna said softly. Apparently they made some bad investments. Really bad. I skimmed the article, my throat tightening. The firm where my father had worked for 30 years, where Andre was now a partner, was crumbling. The family's assets were being liquidated to cover the losses. There's more, Gianna swiped to another article. Your childhood home is going on the market. The elegant Victorian house that had been my prison and paradise appeared on the screen. The same house I'd been banished from all those years ago. Violet? Caden's voice snapped me back to reality. Your car's here. We need to head to the TV interview. Right. I handed the phone back to Gianna. Thanks for showing me. In the car, Caden reviewed my talking points for the interview, but my mind kept drifting to that house. To the window seat where I'd written my first stories. To the garden where Mom had taught me about roses before appearances became more important than affection. Earth to Violet, Caden waved his hand in front of my face. You okay? The house I grew up in is for sale, I blurted out. My family's broke. Caden's eyebrows shot up. The same family that kicked me out? Yeah, I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Karma's a funny thing, isn't it? What are you thinking? I'm thinking. I paused, an idea taking shape. I'm thinking I should buy it. The house? Caden stared at me. Are you sure that's wise? My phone buzzed. A text from Andre, the first in years. I guess you heard. Mom and Dad don't know what to do. They're too proud to ask for help. Of course they are, I muttered. Violet, Caden's voice was gentle. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. You're already doing that. I turned to him. But what if this isn't about revenge? What if it's about closing a circle? Then make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. He checked his watch. We're here, ready to dazzle them. The interview went smoothly. I'd gotten good at telling my story without revealing too much. Afterward, in my apartment, I called Gianna. I need a favor, I said as soon as she answered. Can you find out who's handling the house sale? Already did, she replied. It's Mark Joseph from Premier Realty. Want his number? I grabbed a pen. You know me too well. Vi, her voice turned serious. Are you sure about this? Last time you were in that house? Last time I was in that house, I was powerless, I cut in. This time would be different. Because you'd own it. Because I've owned my story since then. I looked at the wall of my office where my first dollar from the Pearl hung next to my first published article. They wanted to write my ending. Maybe it's time I showed them who really holds the pen. Just be careful, Gianna sighed. I remember picking up the pieces last time. I'm not that broken girl anymore, I said softly. I'm not looking for their approval. I'm looking for closure, something like that. I wrote down Mark's number. Besides, wouldn't it be poetic, the stripper daughter buying the family estate? Gianna laughed. When you put it that way, it does have a certain dramatic flair. Very on brand for a best-selling author. After we hung up, I stood at my window, looking out at the city lights. The same lights that had seemed so threatening when I first started dancing now felt like old friends. I'd made my peace with my past. Maybe it was time to make peace with my future. I picked up my phone and dialed Mark's number. It was time to go home, on my terms this time. The asking price is $8.50, Mark said, leading me through the familiar front door. But given the market and their urgency to sell, we might negotiate that down. Walking into my childhood home felt like stepping into a time capsule. The same crystal chandelier hung in the foyer, though its sparkle had dimmed. Mum's precious Persian rug still covered the hardwood floors, but they were worn thin in places. The current owners have lived here for 30 years, Mark continued, not knowing he was talking about my parents. They've maintained it well, but some updates would be needed. I ran my hand along the banister, remembering how I used to slide down it when no one was watching. Tell me about these owners. Mark shuffled through his papers. Lovely couple, really. Bit proud, though. The husband's law firm hit some trouble and they're downsizing. Shame, really. They raised their children here. Children? I kept my voice neutral. 2, I believe. A son who's still in the area and a daughter who... He checked his notes. Who moved away some years ago. I bit back a bitter laugh. Moved away. That was one way to put it. The library, I said, moving down the hallway without waiting for his direction. I'd like to see it. Mark hurried after me. Oh, you know the layout? I've seen the listing photos. The library doors were closed. I hesitated for a moment before pushing them open. The smell of old books and leather hit me immediately. Dad's collection still lined the walls, each leather-bound volume perfectly aligned. This was where he'd announced my law school acceptance, an acceptance I never used. Beautiful space, Mark commented. Perfect for a home office. Or for writing, I murmured. The owners are hoping for a quick sale, Mark said, checking his phone. They need to be out within 60 days. I walked to the window seat, my old reading nook. The cushions were faded, but I could still see the small ink stain where I'd spilled my pen, writing my first short story. I'll take it, I said suddenly. Mark blinked. Don't you want to see the rest of the house? No need. I turned to face him. I'll pay asking price, all cash, but I have conditions. He pulled out a notepad, looking both surprised and pleased. Of course. First, my identity stays completely confidential until closing. Use my corporation name, Rising Phoenix Publishing, for all paperwork. He nodded, scribbling. Second, I want to close as quickly as possible, 30 days max. That shouldn't be a problem with a cash offer. And third, I took a deep breath, I want to be present when you tell them about the offer, in person. Mark frowned. That's unusual. Typically, the buyers and sellers don't meet until closing, if at all. It's non-negotiable. I met his eyes. Those are my terms. I'll need to check with the sellers, but given the offer terms, I don't foresee any objections. Back in my car, I called Gianna. Well? She answered on the first ring. I did it. My hands were shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. I'm buying the house. Holy shit. She paused. How did it feel being back there? Like walking through a museum of my past mistakes. And theirs? I started the engine. Mark's setting up a meeting to present the offer. In person. Vi. Gianna's voice held a warning. Are you sure you want to do it this way? They need to see me. Need to know that the daughter they threw away isn't just surviving. She's thriving enough to buy their house out from under them. That sounds a lot like revenge. Maybe it is. I pulled out of the driveway, looking at the house in my rearview mirror. But maybe they need to face what they did. Really face it. And what about Andre? Have you told him? I sighed. Not yet, but he'll find out soon enough. That evening, I sat in my apartment, staring at the formal offer papers Mark had emailed. My cursor hovered over the signature line. One click, and I'd set in motion something that couldn't be undone. My phone buzzed. Another text from Andre. Mom's not eating, Dad's not sleeping. I don't know how to help them. I typed back. Sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Then I signed the offer and hit send. Minutes later, Mark called. They want to meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. The sellers are eager to discuss the offer. I smiled, imagining my parents' relief at finding a quick buyer. They had no idea that their salvation would come from the very person they'd condemned. Perfect, I said. I'll be there. After hanging up, I walked to my closet and pulled out a garment bag. Inside was a designer suit I'd bought for my last book tour. Elegant, expensive, powerful. Not a sequin in sight. Tomorrow I would walk back into that house not as the shameful daughter they'd cast out, but as the successful woman I'd become. And this time, I'd be the one holding all the cards. I just hoped I was ready for what would happen when those cards hit the table. "You're pacing," Gianna said, watching me from my couch. It was 1 p.m., an hour before the meeting. "You're going to wear a hole in that expensive floor." "I can't help it." I stopped in front of my full-length mirror, adjusting my blazer for the 100th time. What if I'm making a huge mistake? Then it's your mistake to make. She stood up and straightened my collar. "But you look like $1 million. Or more accurately, $850,000. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Sellers confirmed. Meeting in their library. "The library?" I muttered. "Of course it would be the library. Poetic, isn't it?" Gianna smiled. "Where your dad crushed your dreams of being a writer, you'll now sign the papers that make his house yours." "When you put it that way, it sounds terrible." "No," she squeezed my shoulder. "It sounds like karma." The drive to my childhood home felt surreal. I parked a block away, not wanting my parents to see my car. Mark was waiting at the corner. "Ready?" he asked, briefcase in hand. "One thing first," I said. "When we go in, let me do the revealing. Please." He nodded, though confusion crossed his face. "Your money. Your show." We walked up the familiar path to the front door. Each step felt heavier than the last. Mark rang the doorbell, and my heart nearly stopped when my mother opened the door. She looked older, tired. Her perfectly coiffed hair now showed streaks of grey. She didn't recognize me at first. I was hidden behind Mark, and 6 years had changed me considerably. "Please, come in," she said, her voice carrying that same artificial politeness I remembered. "Lawrence is waiting in the library." I kept my head down as we followed her, my heels clicking on the hardwood floors. The sound echoed through the house like a countdown. Dad sat in his leather armchair, looking smaller than I remembered. Andre stood by the window, my old reading spot. His eyes widened when he saw me, but he quickly schooled his expression. "Thank you for meeting on such short notice," Mark began, setting his briefcase on the coffee table. "As discussed, I have a buyer who's prepared to meet your asking price, all cash, with a 30-day closing." Mom sat straighter. That's wonderful news. "The buyer has requested to be present for this meeting," Mark continued, glancing at me. I stepped forward, finally lifting my head. "Hello, Mom. Dad?" The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's face drained of colour. Andre looked like he might be sick. "Violet?" Mom whispered. "Surprise," I said softly, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm your buyer." Dad stood up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. "This is some kind of joke." "No joke." I nodded to Mark, who began laying out the paperwork. "Rising Phoenix Publishing, my company, is prepared to buy this house. Full asking price, no conditions except the quick closing." "You?" Mum's voice cracked. "You have that kind of money?" Turns out writing wasn't such a useless dream after all. I met her eyes. "My 4th book just hit the bestseller list. The advance for the 5th could buy this house twice over." Andre cleared his throat. "You knew about this?" he asked Mark. Mark looked uncomfortable. "I only learned the buyer's identity yesterday. The offer is legitimate, I can assure you." "We won't sell to her," Dad declared. "You can't afford not to," I countered. "Your firm is bankrupt. Your assets are frozen. This house goes to auction in 60 days if you don't sell. Do you really want the neighborhood watching that spectacle?" Mom flinched at the word spectacle. Always worried about appearances even now. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because I can." I walked to the window seat, running my hand along the faded cushion. "Because the daughter you threw away for being a stripper is now successful enough to buy your house. Ironic, isn't it?" "If this is about revenge," Dad started, "it's about coming full circle." I cut him off. "You made your choice 6 years ago. Now, I'm making mine." Andre stepped forward. "Vi, please." "The papers are ready," Mark interrupted, clearly wanting to move things along. "Shall we proceed?" Mom looked at Dad, tears in her eyes. He stared at the floor, his jaw clenched. Finally, he nodded. "We'll sign," he said quietly. As Mark guided them through the paperwork, I stood by the bookshelf, examining the leather-bound law books my father had once hoped I'd study. Behind me, I heard the scratch of pens on paper, my mother's muffled sniffles, the rustle of pages being turned. "It's done," Mark announced finally. "We'll schedule the closing for 30 days from today." I turned back to my family, my broken, proud family. "I'll have my lawyers contact you about the transition details." As I walked out of the library, Andre caught up with me in the hallway. "Was it worth it?" he asked softly. I looked back at our parents, still sitting shell-shocked among the signed papers. "Ask me in 30 days. The front door closed behind me with a familiar click. But this time, I was the one choosing to walk away. 30 days passed in a blur of legal paperwork and silent tension. Now I stood in the closing attorney's office, watching my parents shuffle in, looking like they'd aged another decade since our last meeting. "The funds have been verified," the attorney announced, spreading documents across his mahogany desk. "We just need final signatures from all parties." Mom wouldn't look at me. Dad stared straight ahead, his jaw set in that familiar stubborn line. Andre had chosen not to attend. He'd texted me earlier. "I can't watch this." "Before we sign," I said, making everyone pause, "I have something to say." Mom finally lifted her eyes to meet mine. The defeat in them almost made me falter. Almost. "6 years ago, you gave me an ultimatum in this city. Strip or stay. Dance or daughter, not both." I pulled a folder from my briefcase. "I'd like to show you what that choice led to." I laid out magazine covers featuring my books, newspaper articles about my success, photos of my speaking engagements at universities. While you were busy being ashamed of me, I was busy building something. "Violet," Dad's voice carried a warning tone I remembered from childhood. "This isn't necessary." "Oh, but it is." I pulled out one final piece of paper, my first paycheck stub from the Pearl. "This paid for my textbooks after you cut me off, $342. I framed the original. Mom made a small choking sound. "Every dollar I earned on that stage went toward my future. Every judgment, every whisper, every condemning look, I turned them all into fuel." I met their eyes in turn. And now here we are. Poetic, isn't it? The attorney cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Shall we proceed with the signatures?" "In a moment," I said, pulling out one more document. "This is my offer to let you stay in the house." Dad's head snapped up. Mom gasped. "What?" she whispered. "A rental agreement, market rate, month-to-month lease." I slid it across the desk. "Your choice." Dad's hands trembled as he picked up the paper. "Why would you—" "Because I'm not you," I said simply. "I don't believe in destroying people to prove a point." Mom started crying quietly. Dad put down the rental agreement and finally, really looked at me. "We were wrong," he said, his voice rough. "About everything." "Yes, you were." I kept my voice steady. "But this isn't about revenge. It's about showing you who I really am, who I've always been if you'd bothered to look." "The stripper who became a best-selling author," Mom said softly, surprising me. I've read your books. All of them." I hadn't expected that. "You have?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "The character in your second book, the mother who couldn't see past her own expectations. That was me, wasn't it?" It was every parent who values appearance over authenticity. I swallowed hard. Every mother who confuses control with love. The attorney shuffled papers nervously. The rental agreement would need to be handled separately from the sale. Then let's finish the sale first, I said, picking up a pen. Mom, Dad, your signatures will transfer ownership to me. The rental agreement is there if you want it. Your choice. For once, I'm giving you the ultimatum. Dad looked at Mom, then back at me. We don't deserve your mercy. No, I agreed. But maybe that's exactly why I'm offering it. The next few minutes passed in a blur of signatures and initials. With each stroke of the pen, years of pain and pride transferred hands, sealed in legal language and notary stamps. Congratulations, the attorney said when we finished. The property is now officially owned by Rising Phoenix Publishing. I stood, gathering my things. The rental agreement is good for 48 hours. Let me know your decision. As I turned to leave, Mom called out, Violet? I paused at the door. That night, when you left, her voice cracked. I wanted to run after you. Why didn't you? Pride. She looked down at her hands. Always pride. Pride is expensive, I said quietly. I learned that at the Pearl. Every night I danced, I left my pride in the dressing room, but I kept my dignity. There's a difference. Dad stood up. We'd like to sign the rental agreement, if the offer still stands. I nodded to the attorney. Draw up the papers. As I walked out of the office, my phone buzzed. A text from Andre. How did it go? I typed back. They're staying, as my tenants. His response came quickly. You're a better person than they deserved. No, I replied. I'm exactly the person they failed to see. I got into my car and looked at myself in the rearview mirror. The scared girl who'd walked out of that house 6 years ago was gone. In her place sat a woman who'd learned that the best revenge isn't serving cold justice. It's serving grace when they expect wrath. The house was mine now, but more importantly, so was my story. A week after the closing, I sat across from my parents at their favorite restaurant. Now my treat. The silence between us felt heavy with unspoken words and years of distance. The firm's liquidation is final, Dad said, breaking the tension. 28 years of building it, gone in months. What happened? I asked, genuinely curious. He sighed, looking older than his years. Bad investments. Trust in the wrong people. Pride preventing me from seeing the warning signs until it was too late. Sounds familiar, I said quietly. Mom flinched. She hadn't touched her wine. We've been doing a lot of thinking, Violet, about everything. That makes 2 of us. I took a sip of my water. Andre tells me you've read my books. The scene in your 3rd book, Dad leaned forward, where the father throws away his daughter's dance shoes. That was about me, wasn't it? Everything I write is about us in some way. I met his gaze. Writers turn their pain into prose. It's how we survive. A waiter arrived with our food, providing a brief respite from the intensity of the conversation. Tell us, Mom said after he left, about those years. The real story. I put down my fork. Are you sure you want to hear it? They both nodded. After you kicked me out, I lived with Gianna, worked double shifts at the Pearl, took morning classes, wrote until dawn. I smiled slightly. The other dancers helped me study. Did you know that? They quizzed me on literature between sets. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. I graduated summa cum laude, got published in literary magazines. An agent found me. Then Caden, my publisher, took a chance on my first book. I paused. The advance was enough to quit dancing, but I kept my first pair of platform heels as a reminder. A reminder of what? Dad asked. That sometimes the path to dignity runs through places others consider shameful. The silence that followed felt different, less hostile, more contemplative. Your brother, Mom started, then stopped. What about him? He defended you. That night, after you left, said we were making a terrible mistake. She dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. He was right. Andre's always been smarter than people give him credit for. I smiled sadly. He used to sneak into my shows, you know. Not to watch, to make sure I was safe. Left before I ever saw him. Dad put down his fork hard. He knew where you were? All that time? He was being a better father than you were, I said sharply, then softer. He was protecting his little sister. Like we should have done, Mom whispered. A couple walked past our table and Mom instinctively straightened, putting on her social mask. Some habits die hard. You don't have to pretend anymore, I said. The neighbours all know about the bankruptcy, about selling the house, about everything. Old habits, she murmured. Speaking of the house, Dad cleared his throat, the rental agreement is just business, I finished for him. I'm your landlord, not your saviour. We know. He looked down at his plate. But it's more than we deserve. Maybe. I leaned back. Or maybe it's exactly what we all deserve, a chance to rewrite our story. How can you be so forgiving? Mom asked. I'm not. I met her eyes. I'm being strategic. Success isn't about destroying those who hurt you. It's about building something so magnificent that their rejection becomes irrelevant. The waiter returned with the check. I reached for it before Dad could try. Let me, he protested weakly. You can't afford it, I said, not unkindly. Besides, this is what successful authors do. They treat their parents to dinner. As we walked to our cars, Mum suddenly stopped. Would you sign my copies of your books? I brought them. They're in the car. I watched her retrieve a canvas bag full of hardcovers. All my books, their spines cracked from reading. You really did read them, I said, surprised. Over and over. She handed me a pen. They were the only way I could hear your voice. I opened the first book, thinking carefully before writing. To Mom. Sometimes the hardest stories to read are the ones we're part of. Love. Violet. She read it, tears spilling onto the page. Dad looked over her shoulder, his arm around her for the first time in years. The house, he said suddenly, will be out by the end of the month. What? I looked up from signing the last book. But the rental agreement is generous, Mom finished. But we need to find our own way now, like you did. I handed back the books, understanding. They needed to rebuild, just as I had. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. Okay, I said simply. But dinner, same time next week? They both nodded, and for the first time in 6 years, their smiles reached their eyes. Moving day arrived with a crisp autumn breeze. I stood in the driveway, watching my parents load the last of their belongings into a rented moving truck. They'd found a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was a start. Need any help? I asked, approaching the truck. Dad wiped his forehead. I think we've got it. Though I never realised how much stuff we'd accumulated over 30 years. The furniture stays, right? I gestured toward the house. As we agreed? Yes, Mom emerged from the garage carrying a box labelled Photos. Though I'd like to show you something before we leave. She led me up to my old bedroom, now empty except for the built-in window seat. Kneeling down, she pressed a hidden latch and a small compartment popped open. I kept these, she said, pulling out a stack of papers. Every article you published, every review, even the ones under your pen name, before you started using your real name. I took the yellowed clippings with trembling hands. You followed my career. Even then. Of course I did. She touched my arm hesitantly. I was wrong, Violet. So terribly wrong, but I never stopped being your mother. A car door slammed outside and Andre's voice carried up. Mom? Dad? The truck's ready. We headed downstairs to find Andre and Dad securing the last few boxes. This is it then, Dad said, looking around the foyer one last time. His eyes lingered on the chandelier, now sparkling again after I'd had it cleaned. It's just a house, I said softly. No, Mom shook her head. It was our prison. We were so caught up in appearances, in what the neighbours would think, in maintaining this facade. We lost sight of what really mattered. Andre stepped forward. Speaking of what matters, I have news. We all turned to him. I'm leaving the law, he announced, opening a community arts centre downtown. Using my savings and some investors I found. Dad's mouth fell open. But your career was your dream, Dad. Not mine. Andre smiled. Violet taught me that sometimes you have to disappoint your parents to become who you're meant to be. I couldn't help but laugh. An arts centre? Really? Really? He grinned. And I want you to be our first guest speaker. Show those kids that their dreams matter no matter what anyone says. Mum started crying again, but this time they were different tears. We really messed up with both of you, didn't we? You did your best, Andre said, hugging her, with what you knew then. But now we all know better. Dad cleared his throat. The truck's waiting. We should... Wait, I said suddenly. I have something for you. I ran to my car and returned with a manuscript. My new book. It's not published yet, but I want you to read it first. Mom took it carefully. What's it about? Forgiveness, I said, and how sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. Dad read the title aloud. Dancing with Ghosts, a story of family, forgiveness, and finding your way home. It's your story too, I said. All of ours. The moments stretched between us heavy with understanding. Then Andre's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. The rental office closes in an hour, he reminded them. We need to get your keys. One by one, they hugged me. Mom held on the longest. We'll see you for dinner next week? She asked. Same time, same place, I promised. I watched them drive away. Dad at the wheel of the moving truck, Mom in the passenger seat, Andre following in his car. When they turned the corner, I walked back into the house. My house. The emptiness felt different now, not hollow but full of possibility. I walked through each room, touching walls that held 3 decades of memories, both painful and precious. In the library, I found a note propped against Dad's prized law books. These belong to you now, not because I want you to be a lawyer, but because you've proven you can win any case life brings you. Love, Dad. In my old bedroom, another note tucked into the window seat. I saved your first story, the one about the girl who could fly. I should have known then that no cage could hold you. Love, Mom. And in the kitchen, one from Andre. Remember when you taught me to make pancakes at midnight? Let's do that again sometime. This time I'm buying the syrup. Love, your proud big brother. I sat on the stairs holding all 3 notes and felt the last pieces of anger melt away. The house that had once witnessed my shame now stood as testament to something else. The power of owning your story, all of it, the glitter and the grit, the darkness and the dawn. My phone buzzed. A text from Gianna. You okay? I looked around at my new home, at the space that would hold my next chapter, and typed back, better than okay. I'm free. The grand opening of Andre's Arts Centre buzzed with energy. Local news cameras rolled as I stepped up to the podium, facing a room full of young dreamers and their parents. When I was 16, I began. I wrote my first story in a window seat, hiding from parents who thought art was a waste of time. Today, I own that window seat, and that house, and my story. In the front row, Mom and Dad sat holding hands. They looked different now, softer, more real. Dad had traded his suits for casual wear, and Mom had finally let her hair go naturally grey. Society loves to tell us who we should be, I continued. Parents, teachers, neighbours, everyone has an opinion about your path. But here's the truth. The only path that matters is the one you carve for yourself. I pulled out my old platform heels from behind the podium. Gasps and whispers rippled through the audience. These paid for my degree. Every dance, every dollar, every judgment I endured, they all led me here. To this moment, to this truth, there is no shame in surviving. There is only pride in thriving. Andre stood at the back, beaming. His arts centre had transformed an abandoned warehouse into a haven of creativity. Dance studios, writing workshops, painting classes, a place where dreams didn't need permission to exist. My brother and I learned the hard way that disappointing your parents might be the price of becoming yourself. I smiled at Andre. But sometimes, if you're lucky, They learn to see you. Really see you. After the speech during the reception, a teenage girl approached me, clutching my latest book. "My parents hate that I dance," she whispered. "They say it's inappropriate." I knelt down to her level. "What do you say?" "That when I dance, I feel like I'm flying." "Then fly," I said, signing her book. "The ground will always be there to catch you." Her mother appeared, looking uncomfortable. I stood to face her. "She has real talent," I said before she could speak, "and a stronger spirit than you know." The woman glanced at my book, then at her daughter. Perhaps we could talk about proper training." Andre materialized beside me. "We have an excellent dance program here. Scholarships available." As they walked away to discuss details, Mom touched my arm. "That was you," she said softly. "At her age, we just couldn't see it then." "But you see it now," I replied. "In her. In others." Dad joined us carrying coffee. The contractor called. "Your renovations are finished." I nodded. I'd transformed my childhood home into a writer's retreat, keeping one room as a permanent office for myself. The window seat remained untouched, a reminder of where stories begin. "Speaking of renovations," Andre called out, waving us over to a wall, "I have something to show you." He pulled down a cloth covering, revealing a mural. It showed a young girl writing at a window seat, while behind her a dancer twirled in shadows. Both figures had my face. "The duality of Violet," he said proudly. "Writer and dancer, daughter and rebel. Living proof that we contain multitudes." Mum started to cry, but Dad surprised us all by laughing. "All those years trying to make you two fit into neat little boxes." He shook his head. "Look what happened when we let you out." Gianna arrived, fashionably late as usual. "Sorry I missed the speech, but I brought champagne." We gathered in Andre's office, popping the cork and filling plastic cups. The sunset painted the room gold through the industrial windows. "A toast," Andre raised his cup, "to second chances." "To found family," Gianna added, squeezing my hand. "To forgiveness," Mom said quietly. "To truth," Dad offered. I lifted my cup last. "To owning your story, every chapter, every verse, every dance." As conversations flowed around me, I watched the teenage dancer from earlier practicing in one of the studios. Her mother sat watching, uncertainty warring with pride on her face. I touched the necklace I wore, a small silver key on a chain. It opened both the art center and my house, linking my past and future in tangible ways. Andre sidled up beside me. "Happy?" "Content," I corrected. "It's better than happy." "The mural?" He hesitated. "Was it too much?" "It's perfect." I hugged him. "Thank you for seeing both sides of me even when I couldn't." Through the window, I could see the city lights beginning to twinkle. Somewhere out there, a girl was probably dancing for dollars, funding her own dreams. Another was probably writing in secret, finding her voice. I touched the window glass, speaking softly to those unknown dreamers. "Keep going. Your story matters." Behind me, my family, both blood and chosen, continued celebrating. Their voices blended into a melody of reconciliation and hope, proving that sometimes the happiest endings aren't endings at all. They're just better beginnings.
"You're being silly, Kelly. James needs this more than you do," my mom said, waving the house deed in my face. This was supposed to be a happy housewarming party. "He has a family to take care of. What do you have? Just yourself." Her words hit me like a slap. I stood in the kitchen of the house I had spent all my savings on, trying to breathe as everything around me fell apart. My name is Kelly Riley. I'm 34, and I never thought my own family would turn on me like this. I'm a nurse at Memorial Hospital. For the past 12 years, I've worked extra shifts and saved every dollar I could. When my parents were about to lose their old house, I gave them $195,000 from my savings to help buy a new one. We had a clear deal. The house would be in my name since I paid for it. But now it seemed that deal meant nothing. My stepbrother James, my mom's favorite from her second marriage, stood there with his usual smug look. He had never helped our parents. He was always busy finding himself and failing at one business after another. But now, at 39, he had a wife and a baby on the way, and suddenly everyone thought he deserved the house more than me. We already filed the paperwork, my stepdad Paul said without even looking at me. The house is in James's name now. You should feel good. You're helping your brother start his family. He said it like my sacrifice didn't matter. Like giving up everything I had was no big deal. I looked around the room. The house I had fallen in love with, the one I had dreamed would be the place for family holidays and special moments, was now being handed over to someone who had done nothing to earn it. People had come to celebrate, but I had never felt more alone. I noticed the uncomfortable looks and the quiet whispers. My Aunt Jacqueline, who had always been more like a mom to me than my real mother, stood in the corner shaking her head. My best friend Lauren, who had seen me work myself to the bone to save that money, was holding her glass so tight I thought it might break. "This isn't right," I said, my voice shaking with both anger and sadness. That money was everything I had. We had a deal. "Oh, stop being so dramatic," my mom said, rolling her eyes. "You're a nurse. You'll earn it back. James needs a stable home for his baby. It's not like you have anyone to take care of but yourself." That was the moment something inside me broke. After all the years of being the one who worked hard, the one they could count on, the one who gave up so much for everyone else, I had enough. Looking at their selfish faces, I knew this wasn't the end. They had no idea what I could do when I was pushed too far. I had always felt different from James in my parents' eyes. After my dad died when I was 7, my mom married Paul within a year. James came into our lives fast, and from the start, he was the center of their world. While I spent my weekends studying and working at a local pharmacy to save for college, James got new cars, fancy clothes, and chance after chance. I put myself through nursing school, working night shifts as a nursing assistant, and taking out student loans, which I'm still paying off. Every time one of James's business ideas failed, the car wash, the supplement company, the cryptocurrency thing, my parents bailed him out. They even refinanced their house 4 times to help him, and I said nothing, even though I knew they were losing their retirement. 7 months ago, when they called me crying and desperate because they were about to lose their home, I didn't think twice. I had been saving for my own place, dreaming of a small cottage with a garden where I could finally settle down. I gave them my savings, hoping it would finally show them that I mattered. We spent weeks looking at houses together, and I fell in love with the colonial house on Miami St. The realtor helped us make it happen, and I signed the first set of papers as the owner. "You're such a blessing, honey," my mom said back then, hugging me. "We'll make this work as a family." I believed her. I wanted to believe her so badly that I ignored the warning signs, the quiet phone calls with James, the meetings with their lawyer that I wasn't part of, and the delays in finishing the paperwork. Lauren tried to warn me. Over coffee one morning, she said, "Kelly, get everything in writing. I don't trust them to be fair to you." But I stood up for my family. I thought even if they liked James more, they wouldn't take something that was mine. I kept telling myself, what kind of parents would do that to their own daughter? The day before the housewarming party, I went to Target and spent hours picking out decorations. I bought soft towels for the bathrooms, happy little pillows for the living room, and a welcome mat that said, "Home Sweet Home." Now, all of those things felt like a cruel joke. They were scattered around a house that had been taken from me. Standing in the kitchen, I watched James walk around like he'd earned any of this. I thought about all the nights I worked in the ICU, the holidays I missed, the relationships I gave up, and the vacations I never took just so I could save that money. They hadn't just taken my savings, they had taken years of my life. As the party went on, my head was spinning. Guests were starting to leave, saying awkward congratulations to James while avoiding my eyes. I sat alone at the kitchen counter, staring at my phone. Lauren came and sat next to me. She leaned in and whispered, "You need to call Kevin," talking about her brother. Lauren's brother Kevin works as a real estate lawyer. She leaned in and said, "Something's not right about how they moved the deed. They couldn't have done this legally without your signature." Just then, James walked by with his wife Emma, talking loudly about how they wanted to fix up the house. We'll probably redo the kitchen first, he said, running his hand along the granite countertop I had picked out. Maybe knock down a wall or two. Really make it ours. My stomach turned. I looked around the kitchen and saw the folder of paperwork my parents had shown me when we first made the deal. It was still sitting on top of the refrigerator, where my mom always kept important papers. While everyone was busy listening to James talk about his big plans, I quietly took the folder and slipped it into my bag. I need some air, I told Lauren, and walked out to the back porch. Outside, I pulled out the papers with shaking hands. There it was, the original agreement I had signed. It clearly said the house would be in my name since I paid the down payment. Then I found something else, a letter from their lawyer, dated just 3 weeks ago. It warned them that moving the deed without my consent could be considered fraud. Right then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. Stop sulking outside. Come back in and be happy for your brother. That was the moment I knew what I had to do. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about standing up for myself after years of being ignored and pushed aside. With trembling fingers, I sent a message to Kevin. Are you free tomorrow? I need legal help. He replied right away. Lauren told me what happened. Come to my office at 10 a.m. Bring all the papers you have. I walked back into the house and saw my mom, Paul, and James talking in the living room, probably making more plans for the house that should have been mine. They looked up when I came in, their faces full of annoyance like I was ruining their fun. Finally decided to stop being dramatic? My mom asked, raising her eyebrow. I gave her a small smile, which seemed to surprise them. Actually, I want to thank you, I said calmly. You've helped me see everything more clearly. They looked confused, probably expecting me to cry or beg. But I was done begging. I was done being the daughter who always helped and got nothing in return. I picked up my purse to leave. As I walked toward the door, I heard James laugh. See? She's fine. She'll get over it. I turned around one last time. No, James. I won't get over it, but you'll wish I had. The next morning, I sat in Kevin's office, holding a coffee cup to keep my hands from shaking. He looked over the documents spread out on his desk, taking notes and shaking his head now and then. After what felt like forever, he looked up at me with a small smile. Kelly, they really messed up, he said, holding up the warning letter from their lawyer. This deed transfer isn't just shady, it's fraud. You gave the down payment, signed the original papers, and we have proof of the agreement. Legally, they can't just give the house to someone else. But they already did, I said, my voice shaky. The deed is in James's name. A fraudulent transfer can be undone, Kevin said, picking up his phone. And I have a friend at the district attorney's office who will want to see this. What they did could lead to criminal charges. My heart pounded. Criminal charges? The idea of my parents getting into serious legal trouble made me stop and think. Even after everything, I didn't want to see them in jail. I don't want my parents to go to prison, I said softly. Kevin looked at me seriously. Kelly, they stole $195,000 from you. That's grand theft. It's fraud. And from these bank records, it looks like someone may have even faked your signature. They're counting on you being too kind to fight back. He was right. My whole life, they had depended on me being the nice one. The one who would give up things without making a fuss. While we talked, my phone kept buzzing with texts from my mom, some trying to make me feel guilty, others telling me to stop acting like a child. Kevin looked at me closely. What do you want to do? He asked. I took a deep breath. I want my house back. And I want them to know they can't treat me like this anymore. Kevin nodded and started typing on his computer. I'm filing an emergency request to stop them from changing anything on the property. Then we'll take legal steps to cancel the transfer. They'll get the papers by tomorrow. As I left his office, I felt lighter. For the first time since the housewarming party, I wasn't crying or shaking. I felt calm. I drove to work for my evening shift in the ICU. Halfway through, my phone started blowing up. James had called 7 times. My mom had called 12. I had dozens of text messages, some angry, some scared. The last one from James actually made me smile. What the hell did you do? I turned off my phone and focused on my patients. Let them panic for a while. Let them feel a small part of the stress they had put me through. Tomorrow, they'd see what happens when the nice daughter finally stands up for herself. The next morning, everything exploded. I was getting ready for work when Lauren called. "Your mom and James are outside your building making a scene." I looked out the window, and there they were. James was pacing, and my mom was banging on the front door. "You have to stop this," she yelled when I finally came downstairs. "This will tear our family apart." "That's funny," I said, staying calm. "You didn't care about tearing the family apart when you took my life savings." James stepped forward, red in the face. "You're being ridiculous. I have a baby on the way. What were you even going to do with that house? Live there alone with your cats?" "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "I have proof of our agreement right here. Want to see the letter from your lawyer saying this was illegal? Or the paperwork where someone faked my signature?" Their faces turned pale. My mom grabbed my arm and lowered her voice. "Honey, we can fix this as a family. There's no need to involve lawyers." I gently pulled her hand off my arm. "We stopped being a family when you decided my life savings didn't matter," I said. "The district attorney's office has copies of everything now. So, unless you want this to get even worse, you should talk to a lawyer about giving the house back." "You'd send your own mother to jail?" she asked, her eyes filling with tears, the same tears that used to work on me so many times before.
"No, Mom."
"You might send yourself to jail. I'm just standing up for myself." James opened his mouth to say something, but his phone rang. It was Emma, his wife. I could hear her panicked voice through the speaker. She said the police were at their house, the real one, asking questions about the house deed. They both left quickly to deal with the mess. Lauren, who had been watching from her car to make sure I was okay, came over and hugged me. "I've never seen you stand up to them like that," she said with a proud smile. "I've never had proof before," I told her. "It was always just my word against theirs. But this time, I have everything in writing." Later that day, Kevin called. He said James and my parents' lawyer had reached out. They wanted to settle. Not only would they return the house to me, but they'd also cover my legal costs and pay extra money for the trouble they caused. "The threat of criminal charges made them realize you're serious," Kevin said. "Should we take the deal?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "But I want something else too, a written statement admitting exactly what they did. They don't get to pretend this never happened." 3 weeks later, I sat in Kevin's office as my parents and James signed the papers. The house was officially being transferred back to me. They also agreed to pay all my legal fees and an extra $80,000 in damages. But more important than the money, they signed a notarized statement admitting they tried to steal the house from me. My mom cried the whole time, wiping her face with a tissue. Paul stared down at the floor. James looked like he had aged 12 years. His smug smile was gone. His jaw was tight, and his eyes were tired. Emma had left him after finding out he'd been hiding their money problems. Turns out, stealing the house was just the beginning of a much bigger mess. "I need everyone to sign here," the notary said, pointing to the final page. They signed one by one. When it was my turn, my hand was steady. "I hope you're happy," James muttered. I looked at him and said. James stood up. "You've ruined everything," he said. "No," I replied calmly. "You ruined everything when you chose to steal from me. I just fixed it." They all left the office, my mom looking back one last time, hoping to meet my eyes. But I turned away. I was done feeling guilty. I was done being controlled. Kevin smiled and handed me the new deed. "Congratulations. The house is officially yours." But I had one more surprise for them. "Actually," I said, pulling out another set of papers, "I'm selling it." My family had already been telling people their version of the story, calling it a misunderstanding, to save face with friends and relatives. They had no idea I'd already accepted an offer from a developer who wanted to turn the house into apartments. The offer was way above market value. "They're going to be furious," Lauren said later that day as we celebrated at our favorite coffee shop. "They thought you'd let them live there." "That's exactly why I'm selling it," I said. "They need to know they don't control me anymore." The next day, I signed the sale papers. The developer was thrilled. My real estate agent was thrilled. And for the first time, I felt truly free. Between the profit from the sale and the settlement money, I could finally buy the cottage I'd always wanted and still have savings left. As I drove away from the closing, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from my mom. She was crying, saying she'd heard about the sale, begging me to call her back. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Some might call that heartless, but I call it setting boundaries. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to burn myself out just to keep them happy. They'd have to figure things out on their own. I had a cottage to decorate and a garden to plant. The weeks after the sale changed everything. I found a sweet little cottage just outside the city. It had a wraparound porch and enough yard space for the garden I'd always dreamed of. Lauren helped me move in, and we painted the walls soft, peaceful colors, not the loud, bold ones my mom always said were right for a family home. My phone still lit up with messages from relatives. Some were angry, saying I was selfish for selling the house without giving my parents time. Others tried to guilt me, saying my mom cried herself to sleep every night. Only Aunt Jacqueline stood by me. She told the rest of the family they should be ashamed of what they'd done. "I saw your mom at the grocery store," Aunt Jacqueline told me over Thursday brunch. "She was telling everyone how ungrateful you are, but most people know the truth now. That statement you made them sign has been passed around." I smiled, thinking about how the story had changed. I was no longer the difficult daughter who wouldn't help her brother. Now, people saw me as the hardworking nurse whose family tried to steal her savings. My mom's attempts to play the victim weren't working anymore. James and Emma had officially split up, and he moved back in with my parents. I heard through others that he was now working at an electronics store, his first real job in years. Sometimes I drove past their small rental house on my way to work. It was nothing like the home they tried to take from me. I didn't feel happy seeing them struggle, but I did feel like things were finally fair. Once I stopped letting my family take my time and energy, everything in my life started to improve. I focused more on my job and even applied for a promotion. I got it. I was now a charge nurse with better hours and a nice raise. People at work noticed the change. I smiled more. I spoke up in meetings. I no longer took every holiday shift just because other people had families. I finally realized that I mattered too. One evening, I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset and planning my garden when my mom's name popped up on my phone. But instead of feeling stressed, I felt calm. I let the call go to voicemail. Later, I listened to the message. She was asking if I could help James with rent. Things were hard for him, she said. I deleted the message and picked up my gardening catalog. I had already ordered seeds for tomatoes, cucumbers, and violets, my favorite flowers. The flower beds were ready. The soil was rich and waiting for new life. In a way, it felt like a symbol of my own life. I had pulled out the weeds, people who hurt me, and now I had space to grow something good. Lauren often joked that I should write a book called How to Stop Being a Doormat in 4 Easy Steps. Maybe she was right. All it took was losing my life savings, standing up to my family, and choosing to put myself first. Simple, really. 7 months after selling the house, my life had found a peaceful rhythm. My garden was thriving. The first tomatoes were ripening, and violets were blooming in perfect rows. I had made new friends in the neighborhood, joined a local book club, and even started dating again, something I hadn't done in years because my family used to take up so much of my time and energy. The drama with my family hadn't fully disappeared, but I had learned to handle it in a different way. My mom still reached out often, especially when they needed money. But each time, I stuck to my boundaries. "I'm not in a position to help," I would say calmly, no matter how many tears or guilt trips followed. That simple sentence became my shield. It protected me from their old tricks. James's situation had gotten worse. Emma filed for divorce, and their baby, my nephew, mostly lived with her now. She had found out James had taken out credit cards in her name, leaving her in deep debt. When she asked me for help, I put her in touch with Kevin. He helped her sort out the legal mess. It felt good to help someone who really needed it, and who hadn't tried to take advantage of me. One Thursday morning, I was in the garden when a car pulled into my driveway. It was my mom. She looked older and more tired than I remembered. She hadn't called, probably hoping to catch me by surprise. "Your garden is beautiful," she said softly, standing by the fence. "You always had a gift with plants." "Thank you," I said, continuing to work. "But you shouldn't come here without calling first." I know. I miss you, honey," she said. "And I wanted to tell you, your father and I are selling our house. We can't afford it anymore. James's expenses." Her voice trailed off as she looked at me, hoping I'd offer help. I stood up and brushed the dirt off my knees. "Mom, I'm not giving you money. That chapter is closed." "I wasn't asking for," she began, then paused. "Okay, maybe I was. But can you blame me for hoping? You're doing so well and we're your family." "Family doesn't steal," I said firmly. "Family doesn't fake signatures or try to take from one child because they think another deserves more. You made your choices. Now you're dealing with the consequences." She left in tears. But this time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt proud for standing my ground. That evening, I had a small dinner party with Lauren, Aunt Jacqueline, and a few friends from work. We sat on the porch, sipping wine, and watching the fireflies glow in the garden. I realized something important. This is what real family looks like. It's not about blood or feeling like you have to help. It's about choice, respect, and truly caring for each other. "To boundaries," Lauren said, raising her glass with a smile. "To growth," I added, thinking of my garden and how much I had grown, too. It's been a year since I stood up to my family, and my life still feels completely different. My cottage has become my safe place. It's filled with peace and comfort, feelings I never had around my family. Last summer, my garden grew so many vegetables that I started giving extras to the local food bank. I sometimes remember how my mom used to laugh at me for loving gardening. She called it a waste of time. Now it brings me happiness and helps other people too. Without the stress from family drama, my job has gotten better. I was recently promoted to nursing supervisor, and my coworkers say they notice how much more confident I've become. I don't say sorry anymore for taking time off or turning down extra shifts when I'm tired. Learning to set boundaries at home taught me how to do it everywhere else. Lauren jokes that I'm becoming a bit of a local legend at the hospital. New nurses come to me for advice, not just about patients, but about how to stand up for themselves. Just last week, a young nurse thanked me. She said I helped her find the strength to leave an abusive relationship. "If you can stand up to your whole family," she told me, "then I can stand up to one person." My parents and James are still having a hard time, but that's not my responsibility anymore. They made their choices just like I made mine. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and others is let people face the results of their own actions. It's not about getting back at them. It's about healing, about having self-respect. The money they took was just money, but what I gained by standing up for myself, that was worth everything. My freedom, my peace, my sense of worth. The other day, I found an old photo from the housewarming party, taken just before everything went wrong. I looked at their proud, smiling faces and realized something. I'm not angry anymore. Instead, I feel thankful. Their betrayal pushed me to grow. It helped me become someone stronger, someone who knows her own worth and isn't afraid to walk away from unhealthy relationships, even when they're with family. My garden is starting to bloom again this spring. Aunt Jacqueline visits often and brings her grandkids, who love helping me plant new flowers. Lauren and I still have our weekly coffee dates, where we laugh about how much I've changed. I'm not the same person who used to drop everything every time my family called. Even Emma brings my nephew over sometimes. She says being in the garden helps her feel better, too. Life isn't perfect, but it's real, and it's mine. I've learned that the best kind of revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about healing and growing. Every flower in my garden, every calm night on my porch, every boundary I protect, they all remind me that I chose me. And if I had to, I'd make the same choice again. No question.